we present Bernard Horsfall as Harry Lawson and Geoffrey Banks as Professor von Hardwig in A Journey to the Center of the Earth, the novel by Jules Verne, adapted for radio in 8 parts by Howard Jones. Part 1, The Great Discovery.
Looking back to all that has happened to me since that eventful day, I can scarcely believe in the reality of my adventures. They were truly so wonderful that even now I am bewildered when I think of them. But first I must introduce myself. My name is Harry Lawson. I'm English. My uncle, Professor von Hardwig, is German. He married my mother's sister, an Englishwoman. At the time I am speaking of, he was a man of about 50. Tall, thin, and wiry, with spectacles and big protruding eyes. Being fond of me, he had invited me to study under him at his house in the Königstrasse in Hamburg, and this delighted me, for although impetuous and eccentric, my uncle is a scholarly and wealthy man, a professor of philosophy, chemistry, geology, mineralogy, and many other ologies. Also, although it has nothing to do with my story, I was in love with his goddaughter, Gretchen. Well, one day, my uncle returned from a solitary walk in a tearing hurry, flung back the front door, and shouted at the top of his voice, "Harry! Harry! Where are you, Harry?" "Coming, Uncle, coming. What's all the excitement?"
"Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Harry! This book I have just bought.
Looks pretty old. What is it?"
Heimskringla of Snorri Sturluson, the celebrated Icelandic author of the 12th century. It is a true and correct account of the Norwegian princess who reigned in Iceland.
Dear me, what language is it written in, Uncle?
It is a runic manuscript, the language of the original population of Iceland, invented, so the tradition says, by Odin himself.
I was about to venture some misplaced joke on the subject when a small scrap of parchment fell from the leaves of the book. It was about 5 inches by 3, and scrawled over in the most extraordinary fashion. Like a hungry man snatching at a morsel of bread, the professor seized it, told me to sit down and write.
Are you ready?
Yes, Uncle.
And follow closely. I will substitute a letter of our alphabet for that of the runic on the parchment, and we will see what that produces. Now, begin, and make no mistakes. MRRLLS ESRUS O-B-O-K-E-D-I-I. That will do, Harry. This puts me in mind of a cryptograph. Unless the letters have been written down without any meaning. But why do that? Who knows, I may be on the verge of some great discovery.
Uncle, I scarcely think.
It seems likely that this parchment was written by some owner of the book. Perhaps he wrote his name in the book. Now, what is this on the flyleaf? Is it a blot of ink or,
No Saknussemm.
No Saknussemm. The name of a learned Icelandic professor of the 16th century, a celebrated alchemist. At one time, he was the owner of this book. He wrote his name here. These alchemists, Avicenna, Bacon, Lully, Paracelsus, they were the only learned men of their day. They made astonishing discoveries. My boy, may not this Saknussemm have hidden on this piece of parchment the secret of some astounding discovery?
Possibly, but why conceal it if it was a useful and worthy discovery?
Oh, did not Galileo make a secret of his discoveries in connection with the planet Saturn? But we shall see. So, until I discover the meaning of this sentence written by Saknussemm, I will neither eat nor sleep.
My dear Uncle.
And neither will you. This man Saknussemm was very learned. And, like most learned men of the 16th century, he probably wrote in Latin. If my guess is wrong, why then we must try Spanish, French, Italian, Greek, yes, or even Hebrew. However, my opinion is decidedly in favor of Latin. We shall probably find that the words are arranged to some mathematical plan. Perhaps one figure is the key to this whole puzzle. Now, Harry, show your English wit. What is that figure?
I haven't the faintest idea.
Then let us pick out letters at regular intervals. Here, Harry, take up your pen and start to write. M-M-E-S-S-U-N-K-A.
When I was done, I could scarcely keep from laughing. I had written down 4 lines of complete nonsense, so it seemed to me. On the other hand, my uncle...
No! What does it mean? What does it mean? Well, it won't defeat me. It won't. I will find out. That I will.
Left to myself, I lit my pipe and dropped into an armchair. I could easily imagine my uncle tearing along some lonely road, gesticulating, talking to himself, cutting the air with his cane, still thinking of the absurd hieroglyphics. Would he hit on some clue and come home in a better mood? I picked up the wretched puzzle and tried every imaginable way of grouping the letters. I put them together by 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s, all in vain. I pondered and pondered. It was enough to drive a man mad. Mechanically, I took up the piece of parchment and fanned myself with it, so that I saw first the front and then the back. Imagine my astonishment when, glancing at the back, the ink having penetrated the parchment, I clearly made out Latin words. Craterem terrestri. It came upon me in a flash. This was the clue. I had discovered the secret. All you had to do was to read the document backwards. The ingenious theories of the professor were correct, and I, by sheer accident, had discovered what he wanted to know. I placed the parchment on the table. I passed my finger over each letter. I spoke it through. I read it out, and suddenly, I felt as if I had received a knockout blow. Was it possible that a man had really accomplished this incredible thing? That a man had dared? Never, I cried, never shall my uncle learn this secret. He's quite capable of repeating this fearful journey. Nothing will stop him, nothing. What's more, he'll insist I go with him. I snatched up book and parchment and was about to fling them into the fire when the door opened and my uncle came in. I had scarcely time to put the wretched things down before he was at my side. He dropped into his chair and began to make some algebraical calculations. I knew he was wasting his time. I had discovered the clue, and I intended to keep it to myself. I did not dare to leave him, and at last I fell asleep on the sofa. When I awoke, it was morning, and my uncle was still at work. His red-rimmed eyes, his tousled hair, and flushed cheeks told me what he was feeling. It made me ill to look at him. So I looked the other way, crossed my arms, and smoked, resolved never to betray the secret. When the cook wanted to go out to market, she found the front door locked and the key taken away. Did Professor Hardwig intend the old woman and myself to starve to death, martyrs of his obstinacy? He continued counting and writing and counting, thinking of neither food nor drink. $12. I was famished. There was nothing in the house. 2:00. I could not bring myself to keep silent any longer. Uncle, I said, but he didn't hear me. Professor Hardwig.
How did you speak?
Uncle, I have already made an important discovery.
You have some idea of the meaning of this scroll? You, Harry?
Yes, Uncle. Look at the sentence you dictated to me.
I'm looking. It means nothing.
Nothing if you read from left to right, but if you read from right to left.
Backwards. Oh, backwards. Most cunning Saknussemm. What a blockhead I am. In Neffels Joculis Craterem Chem Delibat. Dog Latin, of course. The meaning of the whole passage in English is descend into the crater of Yokel of Snevels, which the shade of Scartaris caresses before the talons of July, audacious traveler, and you will reach the center of the earth. I did it. Arne Saknussen. Oh, wonderful. What is the time? The time, I say.
About 3 o'clock.
Then let me have something to eat and then get my portmanteau ready.
What for, Uncle?
Your own portmanteau, too. We start at once.
Where are we going?
Going? Who do you think? We are going to follow in the steps of Arne Saknussen.
That night, after dinner, my uncle called me up to his study. We each took a chair on opposite sides of the table. It struck me that he was in a particularly good humor.
Harry, you have rendered me a service never to be forgotten. Without you, this wonderful discovery would never have been made. It is my duty, therefore, to insist on you sharing the glory.
Glory, Uncle?
True glory. But I must warn you, you must keep the whole affair a profound secret. There is no more envious a race of men than scientific discoverers. At all events, we shall be first in the field.
I doubt if you'll have many competitors.
A true scientist would jump at the chance. If this document were once made public, we should find a perfect stream of pilgrims on the tracks of Arne Saknussen.
But isn't this parchment likely to be a hoax?
No, Harry. The book in which we found it is sufficient proof itself of its authenticity.
Well, I'll admit Saknussen may have written the lines, but he was probably just trying to mystify people. And what's all this about yokel and snivels and scartalis? I've never heard of them.
That's the very point I'm coming to. Not long ago, I received a map from my friend Augustus Petermann of Leipzig. Put down the third atlas from the second shelf. Series Z, plate 4.
Oh, very well. Series Z, plate 4. Is this the one you mean?
Yes. Now, it is one of the finest maps of Iceland. It will settle all your doubts, difficulties, and objections. The whole island, you see, is composed of volcanoes. And note carefully, they all bear the name of Jökull. It's an Icelandic word. It means a glacier. Most of the high mountains, volcanoes, erupt from ice-bound caverns.
But what does the word sniffles mean?
Follow my finger to the western coast. And there you see Reykjavik, the capital. Follow the direction of one of its innumerable fjords, and what you see below the 56th degree of latitude?
A peninsula, like a thigh bone in shape.
And in the center of it?
A mountain.
That is Snæfell. Snæfell, a mountain 5,000 feet high, one of the most remarkable in the whole island, and destined to become the most celebrated in the world. For through its crater, we shall reach the center of the earth.
Impossible.
Why impossible?
Because the crater is choked with lava and burning rocks.
And if it be extinct?
Yeah, that would certainly make a difference, I grant you.
It certainly would. There are about 300 volcanoes on the whole surface of the globe, but the greater number are extinct. Of these, Snæfell is only one. It has not erupted since the year 1219.
Oh, very well, Uncle, but why all this mystery about Scartalis and the Kalends of July?
Why, this shows how particular Saknussen is in his directions. The Snæfell mountain has many craters. He is careful to indicate the exact crater, which is the high road to the center of the earth. He tells us that about the end of the month of June, the shadow of nearby Mount Scartaris falls upon this one crater. There's no doubt about the matter.
Let's suppose that Saknussen is right. He found the entrance to the bowels of the earth, but it's madness to suppose that he or anyone else ever followed up this discovery.
Why so?
It's well known that heat increases 1 degree for every 70 feet you descend into the earth. This gives you a fine idea of the heat at the center. It's so hot that all matter must be in a state of incandescence.
I care nothing for such theory.
So hot that rocks must be molten. What would become of us?
Do not be alarmed at the heat, my boy.
My dear uncle.
Neither you nor anybody else knows anything about the real state of the Earth's interior. The only way to learn is, like Arne Saknussen, to go and see.
Oh, very well, we go and see, though how we shall see in the pitch darkness is another mystery.
Oh, fear nothing. We shall overcome this and many more difficulties. And remember, not one word to a living soul. Our success depends on secrecy and dispatch. We shall leave for Copenhagen, the first stage of our journey, at daybreak the day after tomorrow. Courage, Harry! All will be well.
We left Hamburg precisely as my uncle had planned, and reaching Copenhagen on the day following, we discovered that a little Danish schooner, the Valkyrie, was to sail on the 2nd of June for Reykjavik. The captain was on board and seemed surprised at the energy and cordiality with which the professor shook his hand. To him, a voyage to Iceland was commonplace. My uncle, on the other hand, considered it an event of sublime importance. The honest sailor took advantage of the professor's enthusiasm to double our fares. I bore the voyage well, but my uncle, to his great annoyance, was dreadfully seasick. This troubled him all the more, since it prevented him from questioning the captain on the subject of Snæfell. He spent most of the time lying on his bunk, groaning and dwelling hopefully on the end of the voyage. I felt no pity for him. At the end of a fortnight, we again sighted land, Reykjavik. My uncle dragged himself from his cabin, haggard and pale, but full of enthusiasm, his eyes shining with pleasure and satisfaction. He led me to the quarterdeck, gripped my arm, and pointed over the northern part of the bay to a high twin-peaked mountain, a double cone covered with snow.
Behold. Behold, Mount Snæfell.
M. Friedrichsen, professor of natural sciences at the College of Reykjavik, to whom my uncle carried letters of introduction, made us welcome. And out of the 3 rooms which comprised his house, 2 were placed at our disposal. After dinner on the day of our arrival, the 2 professors fell into an earnest conversation.
Well, Herr Fredrickson, I wonder if among the valuable books in your library you have any works of the learned Arne Saknussemm?
Saknussemm? After you speak of one of the most distinguished scholars of the 16th century. Alchemist, naturalist, and traveler.
Exactly. Have you any of his...
One of the most distinguished men, connected with Icelandic science and literature.
Yes, you say, sir. Have you any...
A man illustrious above all.
True. But his works,
We have none.
None in Iceland?
None in Iceland or anywhere else.
Oh, but why not?
Because Arne Saknussemm was persecuted for heresy, and in 1573 his books were publicly burnt in Copenhagen by the common hangman.
Splendid.
I beg your pardon?
Now I understand why Arne Saknussemm was forced to hide his magnificent discoveries. Why he was compelled to conceal his great secret with a baffling cryptograph.
A secret? What secret do you mean?
No secret, none at all. I was carried away by my enthusiasm. Tell me, Herr Friedrichsen, what is that mountain on the horizon?
It is Snæfell, sir. One of the most curious volcanoes in existence, and yet rarely visited.
So, then I have a mind to begin my studies here with an inspection of Mount what did you call it?
Snæfell, my dear sir. But how do you propose to get there?
By boat across the bay.
It cannot be done. There is not a boat available in all Reykjavik. You must go overland along the coast.
So then I must have a guide.
Of course. I know the very man for you. A shrewd and worthy fellow who will please you.
Can I see him today?
No, he cannot be here before tomorrow. I will send for him. Leave it to me, my dear Professor von Harvey.
That night I slept soundly. When I awoke in the morning, I heard my uncle speaking in the next room, and I dressed hastily and joined him. He was talking earnestly with a man of Herculean build and quick, intelligent eyes. A man whose bearing revealed a calm and phlegmatic temperament. My uncle beamed at me.
Harry, my dear boy, this is Hans Bjelke. He used to be our guide.
How do you do?
Thank you. I am well. Hans is a mighty hunter, Harry. A hunter of the Eiderduck. But to revert to our business, Hans. How far is the volcano Snæfell from here?
22 miles.
So we can be there in 2 days.
No, 8 days, or perhaps 10 days. I speak of Danish miles. 8,000 paces each.
Dear me, then we must have horses.
Oh, thank you. I will not ride a horse. I like my own feet best. How many horses do you wish?
4 horses. We have baggage, and I and Mr. Harry will need a horse each.
4 horses. I will see to this.
Good. Now, as to wages, I will pay you $3 Riksdollars a week.
3 Riksdollars. I accept. And, master, you shall pay me every Saturday night. If you fail, then our agreement is finished.
Oh, very well. Let me pay you now, 1 week in advance.
Oh, thank you, no. You'll pay after my work, not before. After.
That you say. Hans, I wish to start in 48 hours from now. Can you be ready?
48 hours from now. It is understood.
I go now. I go and prepare. Farewell. A splendid fellow. Eh, Harry? What he little suspects the marvelous part he's about to play in the history of exploration.
You mean that he'll come with us all the way?
To the center of the earth, my boy. To the center of the earth.
For the next 2 days, we were busily occupied in packing our instruments, weapons, tools, and our provisions. Our instruments, briefly, were as follows. 1, a thermometer of Eitzel, marked to 150 degrees. 2, a manometer, an instrument worked by compressed air to ascertain atmospheric pressure at sea level. 3, a first-class chronometer by Boissonat of Geneva. 4, 2 compasses. 5, a night glass. 6, 2 Ruhmkorff's coils, worked by electricity, which would supply a first-rate portable light. 7, a voltaic battery. Our weapons consisted of 2 rifles and 2 6-shooter revolvers. Our tools were 2 pickaxes, 2 crowbars, a silken ladder, 3 iron-shod poles, a hatchet, a hammer, a dozen wedges, some pointed pieces of iron, and a great quantity of strong rope. The hamper of provisions contained enough concentrated meat and biscuit to last us 6 months. The only drink provided by my uncle was the Hollands gin called Schiedam. Of water, not a drop. However, we carried gourds, and my uncle counted on finding water and filling them at the outset of our journey. Finally, we also carried a medical chest, boxes of tinder and tobacco, and a large belt crammed with notes and gold. I shall not dwell on our adventures and misadventures on the journey to Snæfellsnes. When we arrived at the village beneath the mountain, Hans hired 3 Icelanders to replace the horses. It was understood that these men would leave us at the bottom of the crater. When my uncle told Hans that he intended to explore the volcano to the last possible limits, Hans shrugged his shoulders and said,
It is all right. Where you explore, I come. To me, it is all the same.
And so at last we started to climb the mountain. Snæfellsnes, 5,000 feet high, is the termination of a volcanic mountain range, and Hans led the way up its slopes as calmly as if he had been walking over Salisbury Plain. About 7 in the evening, we reached a kind of spur, and I felt I could go no further. This was the region of eternal snows. The cold was searching and intense. The wind blew with great violence. Despite his impatience, my uncle decided to call a halt.
Stop! Hans! We shall stop here!
We cannot stop. We must climb higher.
What? Why must we climb?
To save our lives. Look below. It is the Mistur. Come, master, come.
Mister, what's he talking about?
There, Harry. There is the Mistur.
I looked on the plain below. A vast, prodigious volume of pulverized pumice, sand, and dust was rising to the heavens in the form of a mighty waterspout, and the wind was driving it directly towards the side of Snæfellsnes where we were perched.
That's the Mistur, Harry. If it breaks over us, it will destroy us. Nothing is more certain.
Make haste! Make haste, master!
We are coming! Forward, Harry! Forward!
That was part 1 of A Journey to the Center of the Earth, adapted by Howard Jones from the novel by Jules Verne. The cast was as follows. Harry Lawson was played by Bernard Horsfall, Professor von Hartwig by Geoffrey Banks,
Professor Friedrichsson by Georg Scheldrup, and Hans Bielke by...
We present Bernard Horsfall as Harry Lawson and Geoffrey Banks as Professor von Hardwick in A Journey to the Center of the Earth, the novel by Jules Verne, adapted for radio in 8 parts by Howard Jones. Part 2, The Shadow of Scutari.
I suppose that even now there are some who will not credit that we undertook that most terrifying of all journeys, a journey to the center of the earth. But let me remind you who I am. My name is Harry Lawson. At the time I am speaking of, I was studying in Hamburg under my eccentric uncle, the celebrated Professor von Hardwick. One day my uncle brought home a rare old book, and as I was examining it, there fluttered from its leaves a piece of parchment covered with runic characters. This proved to be a message in cipher written by Arne Saknussemm, a famous Icelandic alchemist of the 16th century. In an unhappy moment, I hit upon the key to the cipher, and so we learned how more than 300 years before, Saknussemm had descended into the crater of the extinct volcano in Iceland called Snæfell, and thus penetrated to the center of the earth. My impetuous uncle decided that he and I must make the same journey. And so we departed for Iceland, and there engaged faithful Hans Bielke as our guide. With 3 porters to carry our baggage, Hans led the way up the slopes of Snæfell. But we were still some distance from the summit when a great cloud of pumice, sand, and dust threatened to engulf us.
It is in his power. We cannot stop here. Make haste, master. We are coming, Hans. Forward, Harry. Forward.
I have never felt such misery, fatigue, and exhaustion in my life. At last, when I thought myself at my last gasp, about 11 at night, we reached the summit of Mount Snæfell. We descended a little into the shelter of the crater, and lying there on a bed of granite, I fell asleep. In the morning, we climbed up to look at the panorama beneath us. My uncle was enraptured.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Look yonder, over the sea. That is Greenland.
Greenland? Can we see so far?
We are 5,000 feet up. On the summit of the great, the transcendent Snæfell. And here are its 2 peaks, north and south. Hans will tell you the name of the peak we are standing on.
The name of this peak is Scartaris.
Scartaris, Harry. Do you hear? Do you remember what the great Arne Saknussemm wrote of the peak Scartaris?
Yes, I remember.
A splendid crater, my boy. Half a mile across, at least.
A great cannon, that's what it is, Uncle. And to descend inside a cannon when perhaps it is loaded and will go off at the slightest shock is the act of madness.
Come while we're wasting time. Forward, Hans. Forward!
Hans led the way down the interior of the cone in a zigzag fashion. Some parts consisted of interior glaciers, which he tested with his long iron pole. Some parts were so doubtful and dangerous that we had to be tied together. By midday, we had completed this stage of our journey. I looked up and saw only the upper orifice of the cone, like a circular frame to a very small portion of the sky, a portion that seemed to me singularly beautiful. Should I ever again gaze on that lovely sunlit sky? The bottom of the crater consisted of 3 separate shafts gaping in our path. The professor ran from one to the other like a delighted schoolboy, gesticulating wildly and uttering disjointed phrases in all sorts of languages. Presently, I heard him calling excitedly.
Harry, come here, come quickly. Do not order.
I'm coming. What is it, Uncle?
Raise your eyes. Now, what you see on the wall?
It looks like carving. Runic characters?
And what do the runic characters spell out, my boy?
A-R-N Saknussemm.
Arne Saknussemm. The great man's name carved in the living rock. Do you begin to have faith? Well, do you?
I could not answer a single word. The evidence was unanswerable. Overwhelming. I went back to my seat, covered my face with my hands, and dreamed. My beloved home and my beloved cousin Gretchen. When I raised my head, there remained at the bottom of the crater only myself, my uncle, and Hans. The Icelandic porters had been dismissed. How heartily did I wish myself with them. We made ourselves as comfortable as possible for the night. In the morning, a grey, heavy sky hung like a funeral pall over the summit of the cone, and my uncle was walking about like a wild beast in a cage. He called me to his side.
Harry, do you remember the words on our precious parchment? The words of Arne Saknussemm? He wrote, "Descend into the crater of Jökull of Snæfell, which the shade of Scarparis caresses, before the calends of July, audacious traveler, and you will reach the center of the earth." I did it. Arne Saknussemm. Now, observe. There are 3 shafts or paths open before us. One, and only one, is the right road.
And you shall know it when the shadow of Scarparis falls on it before the 1st of July.
Precisely. If there's no sunshine up above, Scarparis cannot cast the shadow. And today's date, let me remind you, is the 25th of June.
So that if it stays cloudy for the next 6 days, we shall have to put off our journey of discovery for a whole year.
Yes. It is enough to drive a man out of his senses.
Never had my uncle's eyes appeared so fierce, his mouth so hard and firm. On the 26th, to my delight, there was no change for the better. A mixture of rain and snow fell during the whole day. The next day, and the next, and the next were overcast. My uncle was almost frantic. But on the last day of the month, with a sudden change of wind and a new moon, there came a change of weather. The sun poured its beaming rays to the very bottom of the crater. At 12 o'clock exactly, when the sun had attained its highest altitude, the shadow fell upon the edge of the central shaft.
Here it is. Here it is. There can be no mistake. This is our road. Now, forward, my friends, to the center of the earth. Forward, Hans. Come, Harry, come.
Our real journey had now begun. I peered over the abyss into which we were about to plunge. The sides were almost as perpendicular as those of a well. It was a sort of wild and savage staircase, without banister or fence.
One moment. There's the baggage which we must carry on our backs. Hans, Master, you will take charge of the tools and some of the provisions. You, Harry, take another third of the provisions and our weapons. I will look after the rest of the food and our instruments.
That leaves our spare clothes and this massive cord and ladders. Who is going to carry them?
I have thought of that. Hans, have you bundled them securely?
Yes, they are all secure.
Good. Pitch them over the side, down into the abyss.
Very good, Master.
See, there you go. Now, it is our turn. I shall loop a rope over any suitable block of lava, and we shall go down hand over hand. You first, Hans. I will follow. Harry, you bring up the rear. As you join us, pull one end of the rope, and you put it forward your feet. Come now. Forward, Hans. Forward.
So we went down. Down, down, down. We started at 1 o'clock, and at 11 o'clock at night, I calculated we had descended 5,600 feet, more than a mile. Hans called suddenly.
Hold! Hold! We can go no further. What is it, Hans? We are at the bottom of the well, I think. There is a sort of tunnel here to our right. Ah, yes, yes. Well, we will see about this tomorrow. Time now to eat and sleep.
We all slept soundly. Our breakfast consisted of biscuit and meat washed down with water flavored with Schiedam. When we had finished, my uncle busied himself with the log of our travels.
Monday, July 1st. Chronometer 8 hours, 17 minutes. Morning. Barometer reading 29. Thermometer 43 degrees Fahrenheit. Direction east southeast. The barometer shows that we are just about on sea level. We have not penetrated 1 inch into the earth. Now, we must have light. I will put the Ruhmkorff coil on my neck. So, put the wire into the worm of the lantern, and switch on the electricity. Wonderful. As bright as day. Forward, my friend. Forward.
So we moved onward in the same order. For hour after hour we marched, and sometimes slithered down a steep slope in a southeasterly direction. My uncle was in a cheerful mood.
Cheer up, my boy. We are making satisfactory progress, are we not? Why do you look so thoughtful?
I'm thinking of our water supplies. Our gourds are half empty. You felt sure we should strike some subterranean springs, but so far there's no sign of one.
Oh, set your mind at rest. I answer for it that we shall find plenty of water once we have got through this crust of lava. Can you expect springs to force their way through these solid stone walls? Yes, we shall find water, Harry. More than we shall ever want.
The next day, Tuesday, 2nd of July, we resumed our march at 6 in the morning. At precisely 17 minutes past 12, Hans stopped. We were in the center of 4 cross paths, somber and narrow tunnels. Which were we to take?
1, 2, 3, 4 tunnels. Very well. We will take that one, which lies furthest to the east. Forward, Hans.
All that day we marched, and for half the day following, I became convinced that our path was ascending and not descending. And it seemed to me that the walls of the tunnel proved this. They were not lava, but rocks of the transition, as geologists say, the period of Silurian stone, containing fossils. I picked up a fossil shell and showed it to my uncle.
The shell of a crustaceous animal of the extinct order of the trilobites.
Yes, uncle. And what conclusion do you draw from it?
I know, my dear boy, what you have in mind. Possibly I was mistaken in choosing the eastern tunnel. But that we shall not know until we reach the end of this gallery.
You had to make a quick decision, that I realize. If only we had not to fear the greatest of all dangers.
And what is that?
Lack of water.
Well, my dear Harry, it cannot be helped. We must put ourselves strictly on rations. Now let us march on in good heart. Come, Harry.
In truth, we were compelled to ration our water. Our supplies would certainly not last more than 3 days, and we could not expect to strike water in the transition rocks through which we were now passing. I had read of the horrors of thirst, and I knew that unless we soon struck a spring, our adventures and our lives would speedily end. But it was utterly useless to discuss the matter with my uncle. During the whole of the next day, we marched on through this interminable gallery, arch after arch, tunnel after tunnel. We marched without exchanging a word. My uncle was determined to march on, whatever the risk. He must, I think, have been hoping for one of 2 possibilities. Either that we should come upon a vertical shaft that would lead us to water-bearing rocks, or that insurmountable obstacles would compel us to go back. On Friday, after a night when I began to suffer the gnawing agony of thirst, we rose and once more followed the turnings and windings, the ascents and descents of this interminable gallery. After about 10 hours of marching, I noticed that the reflection of our lamps on the walls of the tunnel was greatly diminished. A little later, when we came to a very narrow part of the tunnel, I chanced to lean my hand against the wall. It was quite black. We were in a coal mine.
Yes, Harry, a coal mine without miners. I'm certain that this gallery was never cut by the hand of man. But whether it was the work of nature or not matters little to us. It is supper time. Come, let us eat.
I can't eat. All I want is water.
How much have you left?
None. My gourd is empty.
And so I fear is mine. Hans, how much water? I have a little. There is up to here. Not quite half full. Very well. Now let us eat and rest.
Hans busied himself in preparing food, but I could not eat. All I cared about were the few drops of water which fell to my share. Having finished their supper, my companions stretched themselves on their rugs and forgot their sufferings in sleep. I lay, counting the hours until morning. The next day, Saturday, we started forward again at 6 o'clock. On and on we marched through the coal mine. The road continued to advance on the level, and my uncle could scarcely conceal his impatience and dissatisfaction. The darkness, dense and opaque, a few yards ahead and in the rear, made it impossible to estimate the length of the gallery. For myself, I began to believe that it was well nigh interminable and would go on in the same manner for months.
Halt! Halt! It is not time to halt. March on, Hans! Oh, we cannot march more. There is no way. What is this you say? We cannot march forward, master. There is no way to right or left. There is no way up or down. See? There is only this great wall. A solid wall. Well, so much the better. At least I know what they are about. We are certainly not on the road taken by Stocknessel. All we have to do is to go back. Let us have one night's good rest, and before 3 days are over, I promise we shall have reached the point where the gallery is divided.
If our strength lasts as long?
And why shouldn't our strength last that long?
Because this time tomorrow there will not be one drop of water amongst us. It will all be gone.
And your courage with it.
What could I say? I turned over on my side, and from sheer exhaustion fell into a heavy and troubled sleep. I dreamt of water. Water. And when I awoke, I would have bartered a diamond mine for a glass of pure spring water. In the morning, we started our return journey at a very early hour. There was no time for delay. I estimated that it would take us 5 days to reach the spot where the gallery is divided. I cannot describe all the sufferings we endured on our journey. My uncle bore them like a man who has been in the wrong, that is, with concentrated and suppressed anger. Hans, with all the resignation of his gentle character. And I confess I did nothing but complain and despair. As I expected, our water gave out during the first day of the return march. We were reduced to our supply of Schiedam. But this horrible, nay, I will say, this infernal liquor burnt my throat, and I could not even bear the sight of it. I found the temperature stifling. I felt almost paralyzed with fatigue. More than once I thought I was about to fall unconscious to the ground. The worthy Icelander and my uncle did their best to revive and comfort me. I could see, however, that my uncle was battling with his own extreme fatigue and thirst. A time came when I ceased to recollect anything clearly, when all was one awful, hideous, fantastic dream. At last, on Tuesday, 18th of July, after crawling on our hands and knees for many hours, more dead than alive, we reached the junction of the galleries. I lay there like a log. Something or somebody told me that it was 10 in the morning. Hans and my uncle, leaning against the wall, tried to nibble at some pieces of biscuit. I fell into a sort of swoon. And presently, I felt my uncle lift me tenderly in his arms.
Harry. Harry. Oh, my poor boy.
I could not speak. But I was moved by his words, being unused to womanly weakness in him. I caught his trembling hands in mine and pressed them, and I saw his eyes were misted with tears. He took the gourd which was slung at his side, and to my bewilderment, he pressed it to my lips.
Drink, my boy. Drink. Drink.
Had I heard aright? Or was my uncle mad? Almost before I could think, a mouthful of water cooled my parched lips and throat. One mouthful, but I believed it saved my life. My heart was too full to speak, but I thanked my uncle by pressing his hand.
Yes, Harry, a mouthful of water. The last. The very last. I have treasured it at the bottom of my gourd. 20 times, 100 times I have resisted the urge to drink it.
My dear uncle.
I knew that when we reached here you would fall half dead. As indeed you did. That's why I saved this last drop of water for you.
Thank you. Thank you, uncle.
That's better, eh? It has revived you. Nobly.
Uncle, There's no doubt what we must do. Our journey has ended. Let us get back to the surface, to Snowfelt. May heaven give us strength, and we may once more see the light of day.
Go back. Go back?
Yes, and without delay.
So, my dear Harry, these few drops of water are not enough to restore your energy and courage.
Courage?
You're as downcast as ever. Still you give way to despair. But I will not give up, just as we are on the verge of success. Never shall it be said that Professor von Hartwig turned back.
Then we must make up our minds to die.
No, Harry, my boy. Go. Leave me. I am very far from desiring your death. Leave me, I say, and take Hans with you. I will go on alone.
Alone?
Yes. I have undertaken this dangerous adventure. I will see it through to the end, or I will never return to the surface of Mother Earth. Go, Harry! I tell you once more, go!
My uncle's voice was now harsh and menacing. He had become terribly excited. Meanwhile, our guide looked on with profound calmness and indifference, although he must have known perfectly well what was going on between us. It occurred to me that Hans and I might persuade the professor to turn back. If the worst came to the worst, we would compel him to return to the surface. After a time, I quietly approached Hans. Hans, listen. There is the road back, the road to Sneffels, to life and freedom. We must persuade the professor.
The professor says no.
But we are wiser than he is, Hans.
The professor says no. We do not go back. He is master.
The master? He is not the master of our lives. We will drag him with us if we must. Do you hear me? Do you understand what I say?
My good Harry, be calm. You will get no satisfaction from my devoted Hans. This wretched lack of water is the sole obstacle to our success. It is possible we shall be luckier in the western tunnel.
Luckier?
No, listen to me. While you lay senseless, I reconnoitered the other gallery. It goes directly downwards, and in a few hours will take us to the old granite formation in which we shall certainly find water. Now, this is my proposition. When Christopher Columbus asked his crew for 3 days to discover the land of promise, they agreed. And the new world was discovered. Now I, the Christopher Columbus of this underworld, I ask of you 1 more day. If after a day I have not found water, I swear I will give up my mighty enterprise and return to the Earth's surface.
Very well. If we don't discover water soon, we are doomed. So let's push ahead.
It is agreed. Forward, Hans. Forward.
We now resumed our journey into the western gallery. On and on and on. Towards 6 o'clock, I realized we were marching through granite. 8 o'clock. Still no sign of water. At last I could go no further, and I fell with a despairing cry. Oh, my poor boy. All is over. The last thing I saw was my uncle's face, distorted with pain and sorrow. When I opened my eyes again, I saw my companions lying motionless in their huge traveling rugs. Were they asleep or dead? I seemed to hear my uncle's last word. All is over. All is over. Presently, I heard a slight noise. Footsteps. I thought I saw Hans leaving us, lamp in hand. I thought, Hans is leaving us. And I cried, Hans! Hans, if you're a man, come back! Silence. During a long, weary hour, I believe I was half mad. Again, footsteps. Closer. Closer. I saw an uncertain light, I saw Hans.
Master, wake up. Wake up.
What is it, Hans?
Water.
Where, Hans?
Below, Master. Let us go, yeah?
In the next hour, we advanced 1,000 yards and descended 2,000 feet. Then I heard a sound, running as it were through the rock, like a distant waterfall. I passed my hand over the wall, hoping to find a trace of moisture. Alas, in vain. Then Hans took up the lamp and moved slowly, pressing his ear to the wall. I saw that he was searching for the spot where the torrent's roar was loudest. Then he picked up a crowbar and attacked the rock. At the end of what seemed an age, Hans had made a hole 2 feet into the rock. He had been at work an hour, and I was wild with impatience. I am sure my uncle was thinking of more violent measures. He had, in fact, just grabbed hold of our other crowbar when...
Water, Master. Here is much water. No, do not touch. Hands, they are scalded. The water. It's boiling! That was part 2 of A Journey to the Center of the Earth, adapted by Howard Jones from a novel by Jules Verne. The cast was as follows. Harry Lawson was played by Bernard Horsfall, Professor von Hartwig by Geoffrey Banks, and Hans Bjelke by John Daglish. It was produced in the north of England by Trevor Hill. Next Thursday at 5:25 in Storytime...
We present Bernard Horsfall as Harry Lawson and Geoffrey Banks as Professor von Hartwig in A Journey to the Center of the Earth, the novel by Jules Verne, adapted for radio in 8 parts by Howard Jones. Part 3, Lost.
Yes, my name is Harry Lawson. I am a nephew by marriage to that celebrated, brilliant, eccentric German scientist, Professor von Hartwig. It was he who planned our unforgettable journey, a journey to the center of the earth. But I, in a sense, was responsible for it, for I hit upon the clue which enabled us to decipher some runic writing on an ancient parchment. It was the writing of one Arne Saknussemm, an Icelandic alchemist of the 16th century. And he told how he had journeyed to the center of the earth by descending the crater of the volcano Snæfellsnes in Iceland. My uncle was determined that we should follow in Saknussemm's footsteps. So, with our faithful Icelandic guide, Hans Bjelke, we descended the crater of Snæfellsnes. Presently, we reached a spot where 4 subterranean galleries opened up before us. My uncle chose to follow the eastern gallery. We marched for days and days. Our water supplies were exhausted. At last, we ran up against a solid wall of rock. We had followed the wrong road. We turned back on a nightmare march, during which I became delirious with thirst. We reached the junction of the galleries, where it seemed we were doomed to die. But Hans, exploring a little on his own account, heard the rush of water beyond a granite wall. With his crowbar, he hacked at the wall. He had been at work an hour, and I was wild with impatience. I am sure my uncle was thinking of more violent measures. He had, in fact, just taken hold of a crowbar when...
Water, Master! Here is much water, my clever, faithful Hans. Hey, water! Water!
Give me some!
No! Do not touch!
What do you mean, do not touch?
My hands, see, they are scalded. This water is boiling.
Boiling? Then we can't drink it.
Let us wait a little. It will soon get cool.
The tunnel began to be filled by clouds of vapor, and a small stream trickled away from us towards the depths of the earth. In a short time, it was sufficiently cool to drink, and we gulped it down in great mouthfuls. I remarked that it tasted of iron.
Yes, indeed, my boy. An excellent tonic for the stomach. Hans can congratulate himself on a rare discovery. What do you say, Harry, to naming this stream after Hans? It is the usual custom with explorers.
Of course.
Agreed, then. This stream henceforth shall be known as the Hansbach. Does this please you, Hans? I thank you, master.
It seems a pity to let all this lovely water run to waste. I think first we should fill the goatskin and our gourds.
Oh, yes. I have done this.
Good. Then we should dam up the stream. Can you stop up the hole, Hans?
I will see. But it is hot. Very hot. No, wait. When we have drunk all the water in the goatskin and the gourd, are we certain that we can refill them? Well, are we, Harry?
Now that you mention it.
Let the water run away, I say. It is inexhaustible. Also, it will follow naturally the road to the center of the earth. It will serve to guide and refresh us on our way.
You're right, Uncle, and with this stream always beside us, we're bound to succeed. Let's push on.
Oh, have you forgotten that it's night time? First we must sleep. And then, as you say, Harry, let us push on.
We resumed our march on the following day at 8 in the morning. The granite tunnel, with its sinuous and winding way and its occasional sharp turns, had all the appearance of a labyrinth. Its direction, however, was generally towards the southeast. All the time, the stream flowed quietly at our feet. My uncle began to complain of the horizontal nature of the road. Our calculations showed a fall of about only 2 inches in every furlong. But this did not seem important to me. So long as the road led towards the center of the earth, there was no reason to complain. Besides, we had no choice. On the evening of Friday, the 10th of July, our calculations showed us to be some 30 leagues southeast of Reykjavik and about 2.5 leagues beneath the surface. Hans, who was leading, suddenly gave a warning cry.
Beware! Take care there! Take great care! What is the matter? A hole! Right here. Right under my feet.
A horrible well!
A beautiful well. Oh, it makes you dizzy to look down. Eh, Harry? Yes, this will take us down quickly. And it will take us a very long way. It is a veritable staircase.
A staircase? We can't get down there.
We have plenty of ropes, have we not, Hans?
Plenty. I have them all here in my pack. Not one is lost.
Splendid. But why do we delay with talk? Let us go down.
The well into which we descended was a narrow opening known as a fissure. We were, in fact, descending a kind of a spiral staircase. Down, down, down. It was exhausting work, and we were compelled to rest every quarter of an hour on some projecting rock or ledge. All the while, the Hansbach fell beside us in a cascade. For 2 whole days, we followed the staircase down, penetrating 2 leagues deeper into the crust of the earth. On the 3rd day, however, at about 12 o'clock, the fissure suddenly assumed a gentler slope, still tending in a southeasterly direction. The road became comparatively easy, and at the same time, dreadfully monotonous. It would have been difficult for matters to have turned out otherwise. Our journey had no chance of being diversified by landscape and scenery. We pushed on steadily. 3 days later, on Saturday, the 18th of July, we reached a kind of vast grotto. My uncle paid Hans his wages, his usual 3 rix-dollars, and declared the next day a day of rest. On Sunday morning, after breakfast, he decided to put his scientific notes and calculations in order.
Yes, when we return to the surface, I shall want to make a map of our journey. It would not be too difficult. I have noted with the greatest care the angles and slopes we have followed. Hans, take the compass. Tell me how it indicates.
It points east, 1/4 southeast.
So, excellent. I calculate we have traveled 250 miles from our point of departure.
That means that the Atlantic Ocean is over our heads.
Certainly.
At this very moment, perhaps storms are raging above us, men and ships are battling with high winds. Perhaps whales are up there. playing in shoals, thrashing our roof.
Possibly. But don't worry. There's no danger of them breaking through. But let's get back to our calculations. We are 250 miles southeast of Sneffels. And according to my previous notes, we have come 16 leagues in a downward direction.
16 leagues? 50 miles into the earth?
I'm sure of it.
50 miles down? That's the limit allowed by science for the thickness of the Earth's crust.
I agree.
And according to all known laws on the increase of heat, the deeper you penetrate, there should be here a temperature of, let me see now. Yes, a temperature of 1,500 degrees on the Rheomer scale. In which case, these granite walls all about us shouldn't be here at all. They should be in a molten state.
So, you see, my boy? Facts are very stubborn things and overrule all theories. Hans, what temperature does the thermometer indicate on the Rheomer scale?
He indicates... wait, please. He indicates 27 and 6/10 degrees.
Yeah, so science is wrong by 1,474 degrees and 4/10 of a degree. Harry, your great Sir Humphrey Davy, who repudiates the central heat theory, here shines forth in all his glory. He's right, and I have done well to believe in him. Eh, Harry? Eh?
Your calculations lead me to a stupendous conclusion, Uncle.
Then what is that?
Look at it in this way. From this spot where we are now to the center of the Earth is about 1,583 leagues.
1,583 and a quarter.
We'll call it 1,600 in round numbers. Now, out of a journey of 1,600 leagues, we have completed 16.
What then?
Hans, how long has our journey occupied us so far?
It is 20 days.
You're sure of that?
Oh, yes, I'm sure. It is exactly 20 days.
Uncle, you hear that? Exactly 20 days to complete 100th part of our journey. If we go on at this rate, we shall be journeying on for 2,000 days, 5.5 years. To descend 16 leagues, we have made a horizontal journey of 85 leagues, so that we shall have to go about 8,000 leagues.
No, you and your calculations. How do you know that this road will not carry us directly and quickly to our journey's end? Besides, what I have undertaken to do, and never has done before me.
Arne Saknussemm.
Yes, the great Arne Saknussemm. Why should not we be equally successful?
I hope we shall, Uncle, but still, if I may be allowed to suggest...
You are allowed to hold your tongue. And you talk so stupidly.
I was only pointing out...
My boy, whatever objections you raise, whatever fine theories you put forward, we shall go on. Hans?
Yes, master.
We shall go on, shall we not?
We shall go on, if you say so, master.
I do say so. So there you are, my boy. We shall go on. We shall go on.
For several days thereafter, the slopes ahead of us became steeper. Some were frightful, almost vertical. And it seemed that we were forever going down through the solid rock. On some days we descended 1.5 leagues, and even 2 leagues, that is 6 towards the center of the earth. These descents were sufficiently perilous, and as we made them, we learned to appreciate to the full the marvelous coolness of our guide. This grave and dispassionate Icelander had become devoted to us, and he got us over many a dangerous situation where, but for him, our little expedition must have foundered. During the 2 weeks following our last conversation, there occurred nothing worthy of record. But the next event, which I must relate, is indeed quite fearful. And even now, the memory of it makes me tremble and my heart to falter. Our constant and successive descents had taken us quite 30 leagues into the earth. That is to say, that there were above us nearly 100 miles of rocks, oceans, continents, and towns. In a horizontal direction, we were about 200 leagues southeast of Iceland. The 7th of August. On that unforgettable day, the tunnel had taken an almost level course. I was walking in front. My uncle had charge of one of the Ruhmkorff coils. I had the other. By means of its light, I was examining the different layers of granite. Presently, I halted and turned round. Uncle? I had been completely absorbed in my engrossing occupation and had failed to notice. I was alone. Uncle? No reply. I've certainly been walking too fast, or perhaps the others have stopped to rest. Well, the best thing I can do is to go back and find them. I must have walked back for at least a quarter of an hour. Not a living soul. Uncle! 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 No reply. My voice was lost in the myriad cavernous echoes it aroused. For the first time, I began to feel seriously alarmed. A shiver ran through my body. I broke out in a sweat. Keep calm. I must keep calm. I shall find them all right. Of course I shall. There can't be two roads to the center of the earth. It's certain that I'm a long way ahead of them. All I have to do is to go back and find them. I ascended the tunnel for half an hour. I couldn't make up my mind whether or not I recognized certain markings and projections on the walls. Every now and again I paused and listened in case my uncle and Hans were calling, knowing well that in that still atmosphere I should hear them a long way off. But no, there was nothing to be heard. Nothing in all that immense gallery except the echoes of my own footsteps. At last I stopped. Even now I could scarcely believe that I was lost. I was quite willing to think that I had made a mistake, but not that I was lost. If I had made some silly mistake, then surely I should find my way back to my companions. But if I was really lost... No, I would not think of it. I said to myself, back up now, it's all right. Since there's only one road to be followed, they must come by it, and we shall meet. All I have to do is to go back, up the slope. Just a minute, though. It's possible that having missed me, they, too, may have started to search for me. In that case, I must make haste, and I shall catch up with them. Of course I shall catch up with them. There's no doubt about it. But I was by no means convinced of what I said. And as I stood pondering, another fearful doubt assailed me. Was I, after all, really ahead of the others? Well, yes, of course I was. Hans was certainly following behind me, preceded by my uncle. Why, I perfectly recalled how Hans had stopped for a moment to adjust the baggage on his shoulders. It's a trifling detail, but I recalled it clearly. And then I thought, there's another sure means of not losing my way. There's a thread to guide me through all this twisting passage. The Hansbach, our faithful little stream. Come along now, I said. Be on your way. Catch up with them. This wonderful little spring, our little river, which had spared us from thirst for so long, would now lead me straight back onto the right road. But first I thought I would refresh myself with a wash. I stopped to plunge my hands into the waters of the Hansbach stream. But there was no Hansbach stream. There was only the hard and dusty road of granite. No words can describe the despair that seized me. I went down on hands and knees, feeling the hard and arid floor. No stream, not the slightest trace of dampness. Uncle! I was lost, and I was powerless to help myself. Kneeling there, I asked for heaven's help, little as I had a right to be remembered by God. I prayed earnestly and sincerely. I felt calmer after that. I remembered I had with me provisions for 3 days. I remembered that my water gourd was quite full. I must not give up. I must try to find my companions. Which way should I go? Up the slope? Or down? I would go on up the slope, I decided. In that direction, I should eventually reach the point where I had lost the stream. Once there, I could regain the crater of Mount Sneffels. Why hadn't I thought of this before? I had a bite of food and a drink and started on the ascent of the gallery. An hour passed. I tried to recall the shape of the tunnel to persuade myself that I had come this way before. But I could recognize nothing. And then I stumbled against something solid. Impassable rock. This was the end of the passage. It was a mere blind alley. My last hope was now gone. I was lost in this vast labyrinth without a guide, without a clue, without a compass. When I stumbled, I had damaged my lamp, and I had no means of repairing it. Its light was already becoming fainter. Soon it would go out altogether. I seemed to see a procession of shadows flickering over the granite wall, and I scarcely dared to lower my eyes, fearing to lose this last precious glimmer of light. I completely lost my head. I rose, hammering my fists in despair against the cold stone wall. Madness must have seized me. I knew not what I did. I began to run, rushing willy-nilly in this inextricable labyrinth, tearing down the slope like some crazed inhabitant of the underworld, screaming, roaring, howling, bruised by the projecting rocks, falling and getting up and falling. Where was I going? I did not know. Hours passed, perhaps many. At last, my strength exhausted, I dropped senseless to the floor. When at last I opened my eyes, my face was wet with tears. How long I had lain there, I did not know. I had no means of knowing. I was alone. Alone. Never since the creation of the world had there been such solitude as mine. Overcome with pain and grief, I crouched against the granite wall, endeavoring to compose my mind. Faintness came upon me again, and I thought this must be the of death. Then, suddenly there reached my ears a confusion of sound, like a distant rumbling of thunder, and in it, resounding far, far off, voices. What was it? I listened. A quarter of an hour passed. All about me was so silent that I could hear the throbbing of my own heart. And thus I waited, strangely hopeful. Then, by accident, my ear brushed against the wall, and I appeared to hear the faintest echo of a sound, as if I was listening to vague and incoherent voices. I cried aloud, "It can't be, it isn't true, it's delirium. I'm imagining it." But I listened all the more intently. Now I convinced myself that I heard human voices. I could make out no meaning, no sense in what I heard, but somewhere somebody was speaking. I felt sure of it. Could it be myself? Could it be that my own words were echoing back to me? I bit my lips and again put my ear to the wall. Yes, it was the sound of human voices. So now I dragged myself along the sides of the tunnel until I reached a point where I could hear more distinctly. Even so, I could only distinguish strange and uncertain words which, for me, had no meaning. Words whispered, as it were, far, far away. And at last I made out a word. Florat? What did it mean? I didn't know. I didn't care. It was Danish. It must be either my uncle or Hans who was speaking. I yelled at the top of my voice, "Help! Help!" Then I listened, scarcely daring to breathe. I listened for the slightest sound, a cry, a sigh, a question. But no, all was silence. And now I began to fear that my voice was so weak that my companions who were in search of me would never hear me. It must be they. It must. What other men can be buried down here, 100 miles under the surface of the earth? Then again I listened. I moved my ear over to the wall and found a spot where the voices appeared to be at their loudest. And I heard, too, a noise like the rolling of distant thunder. Now, at last, I understood what was happening. These sounds were not reaching me through the solid mass of granite. They were coming along the gallery itself. The place where I lay had some peculiar acoustic property of its own. A whispering gallery. I heard my own name distinctly pronounced, cast, as it were, into space. It was my uncle, the professor, who was speaking. It was clear that shouting would not help me. In order to make myself heard, I, too, must speak along the wall of the gallery, which would carry my voice as effectively as a wire carries electricity from one place to another. But there was no time to lose. If my companions were to move only a few feet from where they now stood, there would be no acoustic effect, no whispering gallery. I put my lips to the wall, and I said as clearly and as distinctly as I could, "Uncle Hartwig." I waited. I knew that sound did not travel very fast. And besides, I thought the density of the air at this great depth could only tend to slow it down. I waited. Many seconds passed. Seconds which, to my distracted mind, appeared an eternity. And then... Uncle!
That was the third installment of A Journey to the Center of the Earth, adapted by Howard Jones from the novel by Jules Verne. The cast was as follows. Harry Lawson was played by Bernard Horsfall, Professor von Hartwig by Geoffrey Banks, and Hans Bjelke by John Daglish. It was produced in the north of England by Trevor Hill. Next Thursday, at 5:25 in story time, you'll be able to hear the full...
We present Bernard Horsfall as Harry Lawson and Geoffrey Banks as Professor von Hartwig in A Journey to the Center of the Earth, the novel by Jules Verne, adapted for radio in 8 parts by Howard Jones. Part 4, The Central Sea.
My name is Harry Lawson. I am a nephew by marriage of that now celebrated German scientist, Professor von Hartwig. Professor Hartwig is eccentric, brave, and impetuous. Accompanied by our faithful guide, Hans Bjelke, we descended the crater of Snæfell's. We journeyed many leagues through subterranean passages. We almost died of thirst before Hans discovered a hot spring. One day, I became separated from my companions, 100 miles beneath the surface of the earth. I was alone, lost in utter darkness. I must have gone mad for a while. I ran about screaming, dashing myself against the granite sides of the passage. And then, Then, as I lay with my head close to the wall, I seemed to hear a strange, distorted jumble of sound far, far away. I seemed to hear voices speaking my name. Could it be that this passage was a sort of whispering gallery? I believed it must be so. I put my lips to the wall, and I said as clearly and as distinctly as I could, "Uncle Hartwig." I waited. To my distracted mind, an eternity passed. Then, some words reached my ears and stirred my throbbing heart anew.
Harry, my boy, is that you? Harry, is that you?
Yes. Yes, Uncle.
Where are you?
I don't know.
And your lamp?
My lamp is out. Smashed.
What about the Handbach, our guiding stream?
I have lost it.
I see. Keep your courage up, Harry. We will do our best.
Uncle, I haven't the strength to answer a lot of questions, but I beg you, for heaven's sake, go on talking to me.
Do not talk yourself, my boy. Just listen to me. We have been searching for you in all directions, upwards and downwards in the gallery. I had begun to give up hope, even I, my dear boy. You can never know the tears I have shed. At last, supposing you to be still on the road, beside the Hansbach, we came down the gallery again, firing our guns. It may be a long time before we actually meet, but do not despair, my dear boy. It is something gained, even to hear each other.
Uncle, there is one thing I must know.
And what is that, Harry?
I must know how far away you are.
It's not difficult to calculate, I think.
Let us do so. Have you the chronometer?
Of course.
Take it in your hand. Speak my name and note exactly the second at which you speak. I will reply as soon as I hear your voice, and you will note how much time has elapsed when my reply reaches you.
Very good. The meantime between question and answer will be the time taken by my voice to reach you.
Yes, and so we can calculate the distance between us.
Very ready, then. I am about to speak your name.
I put my ear closer to the gallery wall, and as soon as I heard the professor speak my name, I put my lips to the wall and repeated it. At last, at long, long last, my uncle spoke again.
You are going, therefore, take 20 seconds to reach me. Now, allowing 1,020 feet for every second, we have 20,400 feet as the distance between us. That is a league and a half and 1/8 of a league.
A league and a half? But that's 5 miles.
We shall get over it, Harry. Depend on us.
But in which direction? Will you ascend or descend?
Listen carefully. Time has reached a vast open space, a kind of bare crossroads with galleries in all directions. The galleries where you are now must necessarily bring you to these crossroads. So pull yourself together, Harry. Take it carefully and continue on your way. Walk if you have the strength. If you cannot walk, drag yourself along. Slide if nothing else is possible. The slope, I think, is steep, probably very steep, but do not fear. You will find strong arms to receive you at your journey's end. Now make a start, Harry. There's a good fellow.
Very well. If you think that's best. Once I leave this spot, we shan't be able to talk any more. I'm starting off now. Goodbye, Uncle. Goodbye.
Goodbye, Harry. Until we say welcome.
Goodbye, Harry, until we say welcome. These were the last words I heard my uncle speak. I rose unsteadily to my feet, but I soon discovered that I could not walk, that I must crawl and drag myself along. The slope became very steep, and I allowed myself to slide down. The slope steepened. I slid faster and faster. I could do nothing to save myself. Suddenly, the earth gave way beneath me. I was flung forward into a void of solid blackness. It was a sort of well, a vertical gallery. My head struck against a projecting rock. I dropped senseless as if death had already claimed me for his own. Presently, I opened my eyes. I was lying on some thick, soft coverlets, and all about me was a sort of twilight. And my uncle was watching, his eyes moist with tears, fixed steadfastly on my face. I must have spoken or made a sound of some sort, for he suddenly grasped my hand and uttered a cry of joy.
Oh, he lives. He lives.
Uncle.
My dear boy, you are saved. Hans is saved.
We were always sure he would be saved. Good day, Master Harry.
Good day, Hans. Good day. Well, now Now that we've met again, tell me where we are.
Tomorrow we will talk.
I seem to have lost my bearings entirely. I can scarcely remember anything. Hello? What's wrong with my head?
It is dressed and bandaged, that is all. Sleep now, and tomorrow we will talk.
Yes, tomorrow we will tell you all you want to know.
At least tell me now what the time is, and what day is it?
The time, the day. Why, it is now 11 o'clock at night, and this is once more Sunday. Yes, this is Sunday, the 9th of the month of August.
And that's quite enough. Harry, I forbid you to ask any more questions until the 10th.
Which is tomorrow. Now it is best you sleep.
Next morning, when I awoke, I immediately looked around me. My bed, which was made up of all our traveling rugs, was in an enchanting grotto where magnificent stalagmites glittered with all the colors of the rainbow. Beneath me was a floor of soft and silvery sand, and everywhere was hazy twilight. No torch, no lamp was burning, but certain mysterious beams of light reached me through the entrance of the grotto. And there was something more. I heard, or seemed to hear, a vague, indefinite murmur, like the ebb and flow of waves upon a shore. And sometimes I truly believed I could hear the sighing of a wind. I began to think I must be dreaming. And even when I assured myself that this really was no dream, that I was fully awake, I began to wonder if my brain had been affected by my fall, and all that had happened to me in the last 24 hours was a frenzied vision of madness. But then I thought, then surely not both my eyes and my ears would deceive me at the same time. No, it was a fact that somehow a ray of blessed daylight had penetrated a fissure in the rocks. But what about the murmur of the waves, the sighing of a wind? Perhaps, thought I, perhaps they have carried me back to the surface of the earth during my illness. Perhaps my uncle has given up the expedition. As I was puzzling myself about these things, my uncle joined me.
Good morning, Harry. I fancy you are better this morning, eh?
Yes, Uncle.
Splendid, splendid. You slept soundly, very soundly, my boy. Hans and I took turn and turn about to watch you. Seemed to us you were improving every hour. Eh, Hans, eh?
Oh, yes, he is much better.
You know, I'm jolly hungry. I feel I could devour anything you put in front of me.
Good, good. You shall eat. I think you have no fever. I put an ointment on your wounds and bruises, an ointment of which only we Icelanders know the secret. I am sure you are better, much better.
My uncle presently put a meal before me, and as soon as I had eaten, I overwhelmed him with questions. He told me that my providential fall had brought me to the bottom of an almost perpendicular gallery, and that I came down amidst a perfect shower of boulders, the smallest of which could easily have crushed me to death. They came to the conclusion that I had dislodged and carried down with me an enormous rock, and riding, as it were, on this fearful chariot, I was cast down and fell almost headlong into my uncle's arms, insensible and covered with blood.
Yes, Harry, it is a miracle that you were not killed 1,000 times over. So let us take care, my dear boy, never to separate again. Never.
Never to separate again? But
that is what I said. Why, what is the matter, Harry?
have we or haven't we returned to the surface of the earth?
Oh, we certainly have not.
I must be delirious. Down in that direction I can see daylight. And don't I hear the whistling of a wind? The murmur of a sea?
And is this all that makes you uneasy?
Well, surely it's enough. Can you explain these things?
I will not attempt to explain them, my boy, for the whole thing is inexplicable. But as to that, you shall see and judge for yourself. My opinion, for what it is worth, is that geological science is only in its infancy, Harry. And we shall astonish the world with our discoveries.
Very well. Let me see for myself, then.
Not so fast, my dear Harry. After what you have been through, you must take great care before going into the open air.
Open air? But when my uncle realized that my unsatisfied curiosity was doing me more harm than good, he gave way. Wrapping myself in one of the coverlets, I hurried from the grotto. At first, I could see practically nothing. My eyes, quite unused to the light, could not bear the brightness, and I had to close them. When I was able to reopen them and to adjust them to the light, I stood motionless, unable to utter a word. Never in my wildest moments had I imagined a scene like this. The sea! The sea!
Yes, Harry, the
The Central Sea. No future navigator can contest the fact that I discovered it, and hence I have the right of naming it the Central Sea.
A vast, limitless expanse of water. A shore of beautiful, soft, golden sand mixed with small shells. The long, deserted home of some of the creatures of a past age. The waves broke incessantly with a peculiarly sonorous murmur, and many a dash of spray was blown into my face. A mighty superstructure of rock rose above us to an inconceivable height. On all sides were caves and promontories and enormous cliffs, partially worn by the eternal breaking of the waves through countless ages. And the cliffs faded into distance like a fleecy film of cloud. This was in reality an ocean, with all the usual characteristics of an inland sea, only horribly wild, cold, and savage. How was it that I was able to look out on this vast sheet of water instead of finding myself in impenetrable darkness? All before me was lit up, as if by daylight. But some things were lacking. The dazzling brilliancy of the sun, the pale, cold light of the moon, the brightness of the stars. It was evident that the light of this subterranean region, from its trembling and flickering, its clear, dry whiteness, its superiority to moonlight, was electric. Something in the nature of the aurora borealis, only that its phenomena were constant and able to light up the whole of the ocean cavern. The tremendous vault above our heads, the sky, so to speak, appeared to be composed of nebulous vapors in constant motion. There were heavy and dense clouds rolling through the vault, partially concealing the roof. Electric currents produced an astonishing play of light and shade. Deep shadows were cast beneath, and then suddenly, between two clouds, there would come a ray of unusual beauty and remarkable intensity. The effect was sad and melancholy. Instead of a noble sky of blue studded with stars, there was about me a heavy roof of granite. In truth, we were imprisoned, confined, as it were, in a vast excavation. But it was impossible to make out the dimensions of the place. The shore on either hand widened rapidly and was lost to sight, and on the distant horizons a haze bounded our view. As to the height, we could see that it must be many miles to the roof. I felt, as I stood upon that mysterious shore, like some wandering inhabitant of a distant planet gazing upon a new world for the first time. I gazed, I pondered, I admired, all in a state of stupefaction, not unmingled with fear. My uncle, who had been watching my face anxiously, now smiled with satisfaction.
Ah, splendid. You are getting some color back into your cheeks, my boy.
Am I? The air smells good, doesn't it?
Yes, Harry. Breathe it in. Breathe deeply.
Uncle, how long were we in those fearful tunnels? I mean, how long since we descended the crater of Sneffels?
47 days.
47? The longest days of my life.
Oh, come now. We have achieved great things. Do you feel strong enough to stroll up and down for a little?
Yes, of course.
That's the way. Yes, take my arm, my boy. Slowly now, slowly.
We began to walk along the shores of this great lake. After we had walked about 500 yards, we rounded a steep promontory and found ourselves close to a lofty forest. It consisted of straight trunks with tufted tops, in shape like parasols. The wind seemed to have no effect upon them, for despite a tolerable breeze, they remained as still and motionless as if they were made of stone. We hastened forward, and I said, What trees are these, Uncle? I've never seen anything like them.
Why, I'm sure you have. It's a forest of mushrooms.
Mushrooms? Thousands of mushrooms? 40 feet high? It can't be.
Not mushrooms, I grant you, but nevertheless, mushrooms. Let us go on a little.
The cold and the gloom in the shade of the mushroom forest were intense, and I was glad to return to the light and comparative warmth of the shores of the lake. We had not gone far when we came upon many familiar trees, growing to an exorbitant size. Trees, gigantic grasses, flowering ferns as tall as pines.
Oh, magnificent, splendid. Here we have the whole flora of the transition period spread before us. The common plants of our gardens growing like mighty trees. Look around you, Harry. No botanist ever before gazed on such a sight. A great hothouse and a vast menagerie.
A menagerie? What do you mean, Uncle?
Look at the dust you are treading on. Bones, my boy. The bones of antediluvian animals. Here, look. The lower jawbone of a mastodon.
Yes. And teeth.
Ah, yes. The molars of a dinotherium.
Here's a leg of some sort.
Belonging to a megatherium. Did you ever see anything more splendid? But there, we have seen enough for one day. Let us turn back.
Next morning, I awoke early, feeling completely restored. After my illness and suffering, I thought a swim would do me good, and so I plunged into the waters of the Central Sea. It was cool, fresh, and invigorating.
Oh, you've been for a swim, eh, Master Harry?
Yes, and I'm quite famished.
Good. I have made a fire and cooked a breakfast. Will you have coffee?
Coffee? Yes, please, Hans.
Then here is coffee. Very hot. I think you are better. You are quite recovered.
I think I am, Hans. I say, where are you off to?
I have work to do. Do not worry.
When I had eaten, I returned to the seashore with the professor. The waves were breaking monotonously on the beach, and the waters seemed to be rising.
I imagine the tide is almost at flood.
The tide? Do you mean that the sun and the moon exert a pull on this sea?
Why not, pray? You can see by this foam that the tide rises at least 10 or 12 feet.
The tides, the winds, the clouds. It's marvelous.
Oh, on the contrary, it's quite natural.
I suppose you might say nothing's impossible. If you won't accept the theory of the Earth's central heat, that is, the deeper you go down, the hotter.
Oh, we have discussed that a dozen times. Sir Humphrey Davy did not accept it, and everything we have seen justifies him.
Nothing is impossible. It's hard to believe. I must try fishing in this sea, Uncle. Perhaps I shall discover some unknown species of fish. Have you any idea where we are?
350 leagues from Iceland.
Over 1,000 miles? What about our direction?
Still going to the southeast, with a western declination of 19 degrees, 42 minutes.
How far down are we?
We are now exactly 35 leagues, more than 100 miles beneath the surface of the earth.
So we're now probably beneath the Scottish Highlands. The Grampian Hills are over our heads.
Yes, but you need not fear that the vault will fall down and crush us. The mighty architect of the universe is safe and certain in his handiwork.
I'm not afraid of that, Uncle. But tell me, now that we've seen these wonders and talked about them, what are your future plans?
What do you mean, my future plans?
I mean, isn't it time we were thinking of returning to the surface?
Go back? Surely you're not thinking of anything so stupid, so cowardly? My intention is to continue our journey. So far we have been singularly lucky, and I hope we shall be more so in the future.
You intend to cross this sea?
Certainly.
How?
I am not going to swim it, as Leander swam the Hellespont, I assure you. But it stands to reason there's a limit to the extent of the sea.
Then how far away is the further shore?
Oh, I imagine it is some 40 or 50 leagues away, more or less. But we have no time for further discussion. We shall embark tomorrow.
Embark? Where's the ship we're going to embark on?
Who said anything about the ship? My dear Harry, if you were to listen instead of talking so much, you would hear...
Yes? What would I hear?
Well, listen! Listen!
That's Hans! Hans! Hans!
You speak, Master Harry?
What are you making?
Oh, you like this?
What are you making?
A raft, Master Harry. A raft, that's what it is.
That was the fourth installment of A Journey to the Center of the Earth, adapted by Howard Jones from the novel by Jules Verne. The cast was as follows. Harry Lawson was played by Bernard Horsfall, Professor von Hartwig by Geoffrey Banks, and Hans Bjolke by John Daglish. It was produced in the north of England by Trevor Hill. Next Thursday at 5:25 in Storytime on Radio 4, you can hear the fifth...
This is Radio 4 of the BBC. Welcome again to Story Time. We now present Part 5 of Journey to the Center of the Earth.
We present Bernard Horsfall as Harry Lawson and Geoffrey Banks as Professor von Hartwig in A Journey to the Center of the Earth, the novel by Jules Verne, adapted for radio in 8 parts by Howard Jones. Part 5, The Battle of the Monsters.
If you have followed my story to this point, you will recall that my name is Harry Lawson and that my uncle is the celebrated German scientist, Professor von Hartwig. I have told you how we chanced upon a fragment of ancient parchment bearing some mysterious runic writing, and how this led us to follow in the footsteps of a 16th century alchemist named Arne Saknussemm into the crater of an extinct volcano in Iceland called Snæfellsnes, and so on a perilous journey to the center of the earth. Perilous, did I say? Well, judge for yourself. At the outset, we all but died of thirst. Then, for 4 days, I was lost in the darkness of those subterranean passages 100 miles beneath the surface of the earth, and driven to the verge of madness. My uncle cared nothing for such dangers as these. He is an eccentric, impetuous, wonderfully courageous man. As for Hans Bjolke, our devoted guide and companion, well, he went calmly, without argument or complaint, wherever my uncle asked him to go. That was part of his agreement. While I was recovering from the injuries I suffered when I was lost, my uncle discovered a great subterranean sea, illuminated as if by daylight, by some natural form of electricity. He called it the Central Sea. We explored its shores for a short distance, and came upon gigantic grasses, ferns as tall as pine trees, and a forest of mushrooms 40 feet high. Presently, when my uncle spoke of embarking on a sea voyage, I thought he was joking.
My dear Harry, if you were to listen instead of talking quite so much, you would hear.
Yes? What would I hear?
Listen.
That's Hans. Hans! I say, Hans! Hans, what are you doing?
You speak, Master Harry.
What are you making?
You like this?
What are you making?
A raft, Master Harry. A raft, that's what it is.
For some moments I was struck dumb with astonishment and awe. The half-finished raft was made from lengths of a very peculiar wood, and a great number of joints, boughs, and pieces were scattered on the sandy shore. My uncle, who had followed me, beamed with satisfaction.
What you see, my boy, is fossil wood. Here is pine,
Here is a species of palm of the northern region, all mineralized by the action of the sea.
Then it must be as hard and as heavy as iron. It certainly won't float, Uncle.
Indeed. Well, there's no proof like the proof of demonstration. I will throw a piece into the sea. There. You are convinced?
The fossil wood floated. It was incredible, but it floated. Not for the first time was it borne in on me that my journey to the center of the earth was changing all my preconceived notions. Truly, it would not have astonished me to have seen a fleet of native canoes afloat on that vast gray sea. The very next evening, the raft was finished. It was about 10 feet long by 5 feet wide, and the beams, bound together by stout ropes, were firm and solid. It took the united efforts of the three of us to launch it, but once launched, it floated tranquilly and evenly. The professor was delighted.
Splendid. Splendid, my good Hans. Now we have a means of locomotion other than our legs. Rapid and untiring. Tomorrow, we go forward. We go forward.
On the next day, the 13th of August, we rose early. Hans had fashioned a mast from 2 lengths of wood skillfully joined together and a yardarm from another piece of wood. The sail was a linen sheet, and we had no lack of cordage. I was forced to admit that our raft and equipment looked solid and seaworthy. At 6 o'clock in the morning, when the eager and enthusiastic professor gave the order to make ready, we carefully stowed on the raft all our food, luggage, instruments.
We present Bernard Horsfall as Harry Lawson and Geoffrey Banks as Professor Van Hardwig in A Journey to the Center of the Earth, the novel by Jules Verne, adapted for radio in 8 parts by Howard Jones. Part 6, The Hurricane.
Before I resume my account of our amazing adventures beneath the surface of the earth, let me remind you of what I have already told you. My uncle is that now celebrated German scientist, Professor Van Hardwig. One day, in a book my uncle had recently purchased, we came upon a scrap of ancient parchment covered with runic characters. This, we discovered, was the writing of a 16th century alchemist named Arne Saknussemm. In a few words, Saknussemm described how he had made a journey to the center of the earth by descending the crater of an extinct volcano in Iceland. My uncle, being impulsive as well as clever, insisted that we follow in the footsteps of Saknussemm. So, accompanied by our faithful guide, Hans Bjelke, we too descended the Snæfells's volcano. How we nearly died of thirst, how I became separated from my companions and all but lost my reason, how we set sail on a raft on a great subterranean ocean called the Central Sea, all this I have already told you. And then we witnessed a fearful battle between prehistoric monsters. The Ichthyosaurus, or great fish lizard, and a sea crocodile, the Plesiosaurus. After 3 terrifying hours, both monsters suddenly vanished under the waves. But presently the Plesiosaurus rose again to the surface, writhing horribly in its death agonies. We watched it until it ceased to struggle and sank from our sight. And I thought, so much for the Plesiosaurus. But what about the victor, the Ichthyosaurus? Has he gone down to some undersea cavern to rest and lick his wounds? Or will he reappear to destroy us? Suddenly, Hans said,
Ah, the wind! The wind! He freshens! See, the sail is filled! We fly! We fly!
Wednesday, August 19th. The wind, which is now blowing violently, has helped us to escape from the scene of the battle. With his usual imperturbable calm, Hans remains at the rudder. But my uncle, who for a short time had been roused from his reverie by the fight, fell again into a brown study, his eyes fixed morosely on the widespread ocean. I confess that even I find our voyage has become monotonous. But I have no desire to have the monotony broken by the perils and adventures of yesterday.
Thursday, August 20th. The wind is now north-northeast and blows very irregularly in fitful gusts. The temperature is high. We progress at an average speed of about 10.5 miles an hour. About 12 o'clock, we heard a sound like thunder. I note down this fact without suggesting any reason for it. My uncle had his own theory.
Not thunder, I think. No. It is my belief that there's some distant rock or island. What we hear is the sea breaking violently against it. Hans, leave the tiller, climb the mast. Up with you. So, up. Now look all around you. What can you see? I can see. Yes. I can see nothing. Nothing?
3 hours passed. The sound had now become like a mighty cataract, far, far off. Uncle?
Well, Harry, what is it?
I believe that's a cataract of some sort.
Nonsense.
We're advancing towards some gigantic waterfall, some terrible abyss.
I disagree. I disagree entirely.
I could not help reflecting that if we were to be swept down into some abyss, the professor would welcome it, for it would be that swift and vertical descent to the center of the earth which he is so anxious to make. But what, in fact, was this strange sound? And where did it come from? It struck me that if it came from a cataract, as I believed, if, in other words, this great underground sea cascaded into a lower basin, the current would become stronger and its swiftness would afford me some idea of the peril which faced us. Accordingly, I cast an empty bottle into the sea and watched it anxiously. Current? The current simply did not exist. The bottle lay to leeward without any movement. About 4 o'clock, my uncle said,
Hans, oblige me by climbing the mast again. That's it. Now look carefully. Very carefully. Aha! He has seen something at last.
I think so, Uncle.
Hans! I come. Well, what is it? What have you seen? It is there. To the south, Master. A great spout of water rising from the waves. This is what you saw, Hans? Yes, Master. A spout of water.
Then it's probably another marine monster?
Perhaps, my boy. Perhaps.
In which case, may I suggest we give it a clear berth? Let's steer away from it. To the west.
We steer for the south.
For the south? Uncle, that is madness.
For the south, I say. For the south.
At 8 o'clock in the evening, reckoning as above ground where there is night and day, we were not more than 2 leagues from the great monster. Its black, enormous body lay motionless on top of the water. Its length could not be less than 1,000 fathoms. I recalled that sailors have been said to have gone ashore on sleeping whales, mistaking them for land. What could this terrible monster be? The water spout rose to a height of at least 500 feet, breaking into spray with a sullen roar. And all the time we were advancing on it, I cried out to my uncle to stop, before it was too late.
It did not come this way to stop.
You're mad, Uncle. If you don't stop, I'll cut away the sail.
Master! Well, this monster, it is an island. An island? The monster's an island, Harry. What do you think of that?
I don't believe it. Well, what about this great spout of water?
It is a geyser, Master Harry.
Are you sure?
Oh, yes, I'm sure. In my country, Iceland, there are many such geysers.
Oh, enough of talk. We sail to this island, Hans.
Oh, yes, Master. But beware the geyser. If he falls on us, we are wrecked. Therefore, I think I steer for the other end of the island.
I was the first to leap onto the rock. My uncle followed. Hans remained seated on the raft, a man above any childish thrills of excitement. The
The professor and I were now walking on granite mixed with siliceous sandstone. It shivered under our feet like the sides of a boiler and was burning to the touch.
One moment, Harry. Have you brought the thermometer?
Yes?
This water is running from the basin where the geyser rises. Now, what is the temperature?
163 degrees.
So?
And that, Uncle, contradicts all your theories on the subject, doesn't it?
What are you saying? Explain yourself.
Well, the water obviously comes from some place where the heat is intense, and that place is directly beneath our feet.
Certain it is beneath our feet. What about it?
Well, doesn't it confirm the central heat theory? The deeper you descend, the hotter it becomes.
Hot. The water is hot, and that's all. What does it prove against my theory?
Nothing, I suppose. But, Uncle, sooner or later we shall arrive in some region where the central heat will be insupportable. It will be as hot as the Hades of the ancients, believed by them to be the center of the earth.
Now, we shall see. But now we must give a name to this island. Yes, indeed. I named this Harry's Island.
Thank you, Uncle.
You don't need to thank me. I care nothing for your theories. Nothing at all. Come. It is time we were going.
So at length we took our departure, going round the rather dangerous projecting rocks on the southern side. Hans had taken advantage of our halt to carry out some repairs to the raft. Not before they were needed, I might add. Before we set sail, I made some observations and calculations to put down in my journal. Since we left Port Gretchen, we had traveled 270 leagues, more than 800 miles on this great subterranean sea. We were, therefore, 620 leagues from Iceland and exactly under England. Friday, August 21st. This morning, the wind has freshened. We make good progress. The sight and sound of the magnificent geyser have disappeared. And the weather, if I may call it such, is about to change very suddenly. The atmosphere is close and sultry. The clouds seem to be tumbling towards the sea, a dark olive in color. In the south, they are piling up like enormous balls of cotton, one above the other in confusion. The sea is comparatively calm. There can be no doubt that the air is saturated, so to speak, with electricity. My hair literally stands on end, as if under the influence of a galvanic battery. I am writing at 10 in the morning. The portents of a storm become more and more pronounced. The wind has softened as if taking breath for a renewed attack. Above us, the vast funereal pall of cloud hangs like a huge sack. I try to ignore the menacing signs all about us, but I cannot help remarking it looks as if we are in for some dirty weather. The professor says nothing, simply shrugs his shoulders. He's in a detestable temper. I point to the horizon. There's a big storm brewing, Uncle. The clouds are coming lower and lower, as if they mean to suffocate us. Silence. Nothing stirs. Now the wind has dropped entirely. It is as if nature has ceased to breathe. The sail droops in folds on the mast. We are motionless on a dark sea that is as smooth as glass. I reflect that if the wind rises with sudden violence, our sail may be the death of us. I say, lower the sail. It's only common sense.
No! I tell you 100 times no. If the wind strike into its words, let the storm sweep us where it will. Only let me see the glimmer of a coast, the line of rocky cliffs. Even if they dash us into 1,000 pieces.
But, Uncle...
You will keep up the sail whatever happens. Keep it up!
The professor had scarcely spoken when the storm burst. The rain falls like solid rods of steel. The wind rises to a raging tempest blowing from the most distant corners of the cabin from every point of the compass. It roars, it screams, it shrieks like demons let loose. The raft leaps wildly over the waves. My uncle is cast headlong to the deck, and with difficulty I drag myself towards him. He clings with might and main to the end of a rope and gazes with pleasure and delight at the spectacle of the unchained element. Hans at the rudder never moves a muscle. The mast holds firm against the hurricane, but the sail bellies out like a bubble about to burst. I shout, "The sail! Sail! We must lower the sail!"
Must I tell you again? Leave the sail alone!
Lower the sail! Lord, Master Harry, leave the sail alone!
And now to the fearful claps of thunder are added dazzling flashes of lightning such as I have never seen before. The flashes cross one another, hurled down from every side. Hailstones striking the metal of our boots and our weapons are luminous. The waves rising above us like fire-eating monsters. The crests surmounted by great cones of flame. Sunday, August 23rd. I have almost lost count of time. My notes are incomplete, loose, and vague. The night has been fearful, something not to be described. We are still carried forward at tremendous speed. Where have we got to? Where are we going? Our ears literally bleed. We are unable to exchange a word, to hear each other speak. My uncle lies full length, silent, motionless. Hans never moves. It seems this terrible storm will never end. We are utterly broken by fatigue. We are heading southeast, always southeast. Already we have covered 200 leagues from Harry's Island. We have lashed every piece of cargo to the raft, otherwise it must have been swept away. Also, we have tied ourselves to the mast, each man lashing the other. The waves sweep over us, so that we are often underwater. For 3 days and 3 nights, we have not spoken. We open our mouths, we move our lips, but no sound comes. My uncle contrived to get his head close to mine. From pure intuition, I fancy, he said to me, "We are lost." So now I take out my notebook and I write as well as I can. Take in sail. He nods his head. And at this moment, a disc or ball of fire appears on the very edge of our raft. The sail is carried away bodily. I see it swept up to a prodigious height, like a kite. The ball of fire, half white, half blue, and about 10 inches across, runs here, there, everywhere. It is swept towards Hans, towards my uncle. A stench of nitrous gas fills the air. And I am ready to choke. On my feet. I cannot move my feet. This globe of electric fire has turned all the iron on board into magnets or lodestones. Our instruments, our tools, and then suddenly the ball of fire bursts. A stupendous flash of light. It shows me my uncle cast to the deck, apparently senseless. And there, Hans at the rudder, grim, motionless, imperturbable. And then, all about us, darkness, darkness, darkness. Tuesday, August 25th. The hurricane continues. Where are we going? Where? Our speed is terrific. We must have passed under England, under the Channel, under France, probably under the whole extent of Europe.
Master Harry!
What's that? Someone called my name?
Master Harry!
Faithful Hans.
Master Harry, you hear? Hear? Yes, I hear. And something else. There is land yonder. The sea is smashing on rocks. We are close. We are very close. Oh, land. No, it can't be. You imagine it.
Exactly what happened when our raft was cast upon the rocky shore, it is impossible for me to say. I felt myself thrown into the raging seas, and I was saved from death only by the determination of the faithful Hans, who seized me and carried me far out of the reach of the waves and laid me down upon a wide expanse of sand. And here, some time later, I found myself in the company of the professor. Some overhanging rocks afforded us a slight protection, and under this shelter Hans prepared some food, which I, however, was unable to eat. Exhausted by 3 weary days and nights, we fell into a heavy sleep. The next day, when I awoke, the change was magical. Every trace of the storm had vanished. The wind was gentle and the sea quite calm. I was greeted by the first happy remarks I had heard from my uncle for many a day.
Well, how are you, Harry, my dear boy? Have you slept soundly? Well, what is the matter with you? Cannot you say whether you slept well or not?
Yes, I've slept well, Uncle. But every bone in my body aches. Oh, you appear to be very cheerful this morning.
Never happier in my life, dear boy. We have at last reached our long-wished-for port.
Do you mean this is the end of our expedition?
No, not yet. But we have reached the further side of the great central sea, the sea which I thought would never end. So now we can resume our journey by land, our real journey to the center of the earth.
Uncle, what about getting back? Back to the surface?
Getting back? What a question to ask. When we reach the center of the earth, we shall find a new road to lead us back to the surface.
And if there is no new road?
We shall turn about and return by the way we came.
In that case, we shall have to repair the raft. And what about the equipment?
There's very little missing as far as I can see. We have lost all our guns.
We haven't a weapon between us.
No weapons. Only this gunpowder. Well, as we have no guns, all we do is give up the idea of hunting. But our scientific instruments, Hans, what about them?
Here, the thermometers, the chronometer, the compass, and this, what you call it?
The manometer, the most valuable of all. With this, I can calculate our depth as we progress. With this, I shall tell when we have reached the center of the earth.
And food. How much is left, Hans?
Well, the food is here, in these boxes. There are biscuits, salt meat, fried fish, freedom. It is all good. If we are careful, it will last 2, 3, 4 months. Yes, 4 months, I think.
4 months? Oh, then we shall have plenty of time to reach the center of the earth. And to come back again. And with the food that is left over, I will give a grand dinner to all my scientific colleagues in Hamburg.
But at this moment, Uncle, we are somewhere under the Mediterranean.
That may be so, but whether we are under the Mediterranean or under Turkey or the Atlantic Ocean cannot be decided until we are sure that the storm does not drive us out of our course. However, we can easily decide by taking our bearings. Come, let us...
The professor stepped out eagerly towards the rock where Hans had laid out our instruments. He was gay and light-hearted, to all appearances a young man again. I had never known him so amiable and cheerful. I followed him, anxious to know whether I had made any mistake in my estimate of our position. My uncle took up the compass, gave it a shake to bring it to life, placed it again on the rocks, and bent his eyes eagerly over it. For some moments he was silent. Slowly he rubbed his eyes and looked again. And then...
No. It is not possible.
What's the matter, Uncle? Uncle, what's wrong?
I cannot speak. Look at the compass.
The needle's pointing to the shore.
Exactly. Then the shore is to the north.
The sea is to the south. You realize what this means?
Now, wait a minute. Perhaps it's not working properly, Uncle. I'll give it another shake. There. Let it settle.
It has settled precisely as before. The needle points to the shore.
There must have been a slant of wind during the storm. We've been carried back to the shores of Port Grayton.
The shores we left, apparently for ever so many days ago. And our voyage, the fearful dangers we have passed through amount to nothing. Every hour, every minute on the raft has been so much time lost. It is cruel. Cruel.
Yes, Uncle. And in my opinion, the time has come to reconsider our position. It is useless to struggle against the impossible.
So, fate plays moves, wild tricks. All the elements, air, fire, water, all have combined against me. Well, now they shall learn what a determined man can do. I will not yield. I will not retreat one inch. They shall see who is going to triumph in this immortal contest. Man or nature. Forward, I say. Forward to the center of the earth.
That was the sixth installment of A Journey to the Center of the Earth, adapted by Howard Jones from the novel by Jules Verne. The cast was as follows. Harry Lawson was played by Bernard Horsfall, Professor von Hadwig by Geoffrey Banks, and Hans Bjorke by John Daglish. It was produced in the north of England by Trevor Hill. We invite you to listen to the seventh installment of this serial next Thursday at the same time.
We present Bernard Horsfall as Harry Lawson and Geoffrey Banks as Professor von Hadwig in A Journey to the Center of the Earth, the novel by Jules Verne, adapted for radio in 8 parts by Howard Jones. Part 7, The Mysterious Dagger.
No doubt you will recall much of what I have told you already at our earlier meetings. But in case you have forgotten, let me remind you that my name is Harry Lawson, and that my uncle is that famous, learned, eccentric gentleman, Professor von Hadwig of Hamburg. It seems only yesterday that my uncle brought to his house in the Königstrasse a book in which I discovered an ancient parchment covered with runic characters. It had been written by a certain Arne Saknussemm, an Icelandic alchemist of the 16th century, who claimed to have made a journey to the center of the earth. My uncle insisted that we followed in the footsteps of this great man. So he and I and our faithful guide Hans Bjorke descended the crater of Snæfellsnes, an extinct volcano in Iceland, and found ourselves in a maze of subterranean passages and caverns. There we all but died of thirst, and there I was lost in impenetrable darkness and for a little while became demented. Later, we sailed on a raft over a mighty sea, the Central Sea, the professor named it. We witnessed a battle to the death between prehistoric monsters, and then were overwhelmed by a fearful hurricane. It was the ever-faithful Hans who saved our lives when we were tossed up on some rocks. Where were we? That was the question we had to decide. My uncle consulted the compass.
Oh, No. The needle is pointing to the shore. The shore is north. The sea is south. Do you realize what this means?
Yes. There must have been a slant of wind during the storm. We've been carried back to the shores of Port Gretchen.
The shores we left, apparently forever, so many days ago. Every hour, every minute on the raft has been so much time lost. So, fate plays me this vile tricks. Air, fire, water, all combined against me. Well, now they shall learn what the will of a determined man can do. I will not yield. I will not retreat 1 inch. We shall see who is going to triumph in this immortal contest. Man or nature. Forward. Forward, I say, to the center of the earth.
Uncle, listen to me.
To the raft. To the raft. We sail again.
Listen to reason.
What is it, Harry?
Uncle, there must be some limit to our ambition. We can't achieve the impossible. You know as well as I do that we are quite unready for another sea voyage. It's absolute madness to contemplate a second voyage. A 500 leagues on a wretched pile of beams? With another bedsheet for a sail, a stick for a mast, and probably a tempest to contend with? We can't steer our raft adequately, so we shall be at the mercy of any foul weather we run up against. I tell you, Uncle, it's an act of sheer lunacy to take risks for a second time on this treacherous sea.
What do you say?
You've not heard a single word I've been saying.
No, I have not, Harry. Come to the raft.
This time, Uncle, you must listen. You must hear me. The raft isn't even seaworthy.
Then we must make it seaworthy again. I will instruct Hans.
If you say so. But it's going to take time to repair.
They have plenty of cordage. It will take Hans, no time at all. Yes. We shall see who is going to triumph, man or nature.
Such was the result of my attempts to overcome the professor's stubborn will. I tried again. I begged, I implored him, but all to no purpose. Meanwhile, Hans set about repairing the raft, and before long he had raised a new mast and a new sail which snapped merrily in the breeze. The professor spoke a few words to Hans, who nodded calmly and immediately began to stow our baggage on board and to prepare for our departure. In a mood of stolid and sullen resignation, I was ready to board the raft when my uncle put his hand on my shoulder.
There's no hurry, my boy. We shall not embark until tomorrow. Now, since fate has cast us cruelly back on these shores, I think we should not leave them without making a thorough inspection of them.
Very well, Uncle. Let us set out on another journey of discovery.
That is the spirit. We can leave Hans here. He has quite enough to get on with. I imagine Port Gretchen to lie somewhere to the west of this place. These shores, in fact, are new to us. There should be a lot to interest us here.
The distance between the high water mark on the foreshore and the foot of the rocks was considerable. As we trudged along, our feet crushed innumerable shells of every shape and size, shells that had been the homes of animals in the early period of creation. I particularly noticed some truly enormous shells, carapaces of turtles and tortoises, more than 15 feet in diameter. For a full mile, we followed the curvings of the Central Sea, advancing sometimes with great difficulty over broken masses of granite mixed with flint, quartz, and alluvial deposits. Suddenly, my uncle stopped.
It is a cemetery. It is bones. Bones. All bones.
On that spot, some 3 square miles in extent, was accumulated the whole history of animal life. When we moved, our feet crushed with a dry, cracking sound the remains of countless prehistoric fossils. I was quite bewildered. And my uncle, for his part, stood with his arms raised towards the granite vault which served us for a sky, his mouth wide open, his eyes gleaming behind his spectacles. For some minutes, he stood thus, literally agape at the magnitude of this discovery. And then suddenly he darted forward, caught up an object, and cried in excitement.
Harry! You see what this is? A human skull!
It was indeed a human skull. Perfectly recognizable. Had the peculiar nature of the soil preserved it through countless ages? I couldn't say. Nor, for that matter, could my uncle. But this head, with its tight, stretched and parchment-like skin, with the teeth whole, the hair abundant, was before our eyes, almost as if in life. Soon we found more human skulls, and then complete skeletons. My uncle could scarcely believe his eyes.
Oh, is it not marvelous to contemplate? And does it not raise a great question? Were these human bodies dragged down to these steps by some convulsion of nature? Or did they exist here below? Were they born? Did they live? Did they die here as we are born, live and die on the surface of the earth? Now, what is the answer to that, my boy?
I don't know, Uncle. But one thing strikes me.
What strikes you? Come on, now, out with it.
Are any men of this ancient race still alive? Are they still wandering about on the shores of this subterranean sea?
A very good question. Who knows? Who knows?
It may not be a laughing matter, Uncle. If there are men still here, how are they going to receive us?
Another good question. I will give my mind to it. Meanwhile, let us explore further.
For a long and weary hour, we tramped over the great bed of bones. Presently, the shores of the Central Sea were lost behind hills. These hills and the rocks and what appeared to be far-off forests all had a weird and mysterious aspect under the steady glare of some form of electric illumination. The imprudent and enthusiastic professor, who did not care whether he lost himself or not, hurried me forward. And after about a mile, we came to the edge of a vast forest. Here stood huge palms. Yonder were pines, yews, and cypresses, all seemingly bound together by a carpet of creeping plants. The professor was in ecstasies.
Do you observe? Do you recognize? Do you realize this is an immense forest of the Tertiary period, growing as it grew in days of old? Wonderful, wonderful. Look at those superb palmacites, a genus of fossil palms of the Carboniferous. Magnificent, truly magnificent. And over here, see trees that a modern child might recognize. Oak, poplar, Norwegian pine. And that surely is an Australian eucalyptus. And there's a New Zealand kauri. Uncle! Come along, don't let us dawdle. There's still so much to see. Here, a common maple. But did you ever see a maple of such gigantic proportions? What's that? I cannot hear anything. Do come along now.
Elephants! Living elephants! Look! A great herd of them.
No, not elephants. Not our modern elephants, dear boy. Mastodons, mammoths, alive and thriving, eating the foliage of this great forest. Marvelous. Come, we must take a closer look of them.
Stop! If those beasts stampede, what chance shall we have? No human creature could possibly withstand.
No human creature, did you say? You're mistaken, my dear boy. Look yonder. There is a human being, Harry. A man like ourselves.
I looked. Not more than a quarter of a mile off, leaning against the trunk of an enormous tree,
was a human being. A Proteus of the underworld, a new son of Neptune, tending this great herd of mastodons. His height I judged to be above 12 feet. His head, as big as that of a buffalo, was lost in a mane of matted hair, and in his hand he held the branch of a tree, serving him as a shepherd's crook. For some minutes we neither moved nor spoke. And then I realized that if this giant but turned his head, he might very easily see us. Panic seized me. Grasping my uncle by the arm, I dragged him back. And for the first time, he did not resist me.
Stop. I can't run no further. Yes, I think we're safe here. Sit down. Get our breath back. Thank you, my boy. Yes, it's better. I am reminded of a phrase in the Latin. Immanis pecoris custos, immanis ipse.
The keeper of gigantic cattle, himself a giant.
Precisely. What a man! What power, what strength!
I just don't believe it.
You don't believe it? You don't believe the evidence of your senses? Of your own eyes?
The giant was real enough, I grant you, Uncle, but I don't believe he was a man like us. Not Homo sapiens. It stands to reason that no generation of men such as we are can inhabit this subterranean world.
Why not? Why not, please?
Because if they did, they would all know about us who live on the surface. They would have communicated with us.
Possibly.
But that was a man-like creature, but it wasn't a man. A gigantic monkey of some sort.
I will think over your views and opinions. And now that I am quite recovered, my boy, let us continue with our explorations.
We made our way towards the Central Sea. Though this was new territory to us, I noticed every now and then certain rocks which in shape and formation reminded me forcibly of the rocks at Port Gretchen. There were also streams and cascades tumbling from above the rocks, and this seemed to confirm the puzzling compass reading and our extraordinary and involuntary return to the north shore of the Central Sea. Then, as we pushed on, the unrecognized appearance of a stream or the profile of a rock threw me into doubt. I said, "Have we ever come this way before, Uncle?"
I'm just wondering this myself. I wish I could be sure.
Well, we were not cast ashore exactly at the spot we sailed from, that's quite certain. I think the storm must have driven us above our starting point. Therefore, if we follow this coast, we shall come to Port Gretchen.
In that case, it is useless to continue our exploration. The best thing we can do is to return to Hans and the raft.
Yeah.
Are you quite sure of our bearings?
Well, not quite sure, Uncle. These rocks are so much alike. All the same, I seem to recognize this cape as the place where Hans built our raft. I fancy we must be very close to Port Gretchen, even if we hadn't reached it already.
My dear Harry, if this were Port Gretchen, we should find traces of our footsteps, or at least some signs that we have been here. But there's nothing. Nothing.
Just a moment. I can see something. Yes, I was right after all, Uncle.
And what have you found? Oh, the rusty old dagger. Why did you bring that thing with you? That's no good at all.
I've never set eyes on it before. Isn't it yours?
Mine? I don't recognize it at all. I'm sure it was never mine.
That's very puzzling.
Not in the least. The explanation is simple. Icelanders like these old-fashioned weapons. Obviously, this knife belongs to Hans. He must have dropped it without knowing.
No, Uncle. This doesn't belong to Hans. I know him and his habits too well. Could it be the weapon of some ancient warrior? Or of some living creature? Like that gigantic shepherd with his mastodons? And yet, such a creature, if he carried a knife at all, would be armed with a stone knife. Flint, or just possibly bronze. But this knife is steel. Steel, I tell you.
Steel, certainly. But calm yourself, Harry. This weapon is a true dagger, such as was carried by gentlemen in their belts during the 16th century. Clearly, this one is of Spanish workmanship. It does not belong to you or to me.
or to our worthy hands. Not to any living creature in the interior of the earth. Then look closer, my boy. The blade was never blunted like this, with fair wear and tear. No, observe now. It is thick with rust. And this rust is not merely a day old, not a year old, not even a century old.
But, Uncle...
Listen, I say. We are now on the verge of a great discovery. This dagger, a wonderful and fortunate find, my boy, has lain on the sands of this shore for more than 100 years, more than 200, more than 300 years. And it was used, or so I firmly believe, by someone endeavoring to carve an inscription on these rocks.
Well, if your theory is right, someone brought the knife here. Someone used it here. In a word, somebody has been here before us.
Yes, Harry, yes. Now you know the importance of your find. A man has been here before us. A man who has tried once more to indicate the right road to the center of the earth. Let us look around. Let us see what we can find. Forward! Forward!
We walked along the wall of rock, looking into every tiny fissure which might widen out and prove to be the road to the center of the earth. Presently we reached a spot where the beach narrowed and the sea almost lapped the base of the rocks, which here were very steep. At last, beneath a huge overhanging rock, we discovered the entrance of a dark and gloomy tunnel. And here, on a tablet of granite, which had been smoothed by rubbing it with another stone, we could see two mysterious and much worn letters, the initials of the bold and extraordinary traveler who had preceded us on our great adventure.
A-S. I was right. I was right. Arne Saknussemm. Always the great Arne Saknussemm.
Since the start of our journey, I had experienced many surprises and suffered many disappointments. Indeed, I believed that I was hardened against all further surprises, that I would neither see nor hear anything to astonish me again. When, however, I saw those two letters carved in the rock, when I held in my hands the very dagger which had carved them more than 300 years before, I was struck dumb with wonder. My uncle, on the other hand, was seized with a sort of poetical ecstasy.
Saknussemm, you great and glorious genius. You have left no stone unturned to show other men the road to the center of this mighty globe. Your fellow creatures can now follow the trail made by your illustrious footsteps 300 years ago. Your name, carved at every important stage of your journey, leads the hopeful traveler direct to the great discovery to which you devoted such energy and courage. And doubtless the audacious traveler who follows your footsteps to their destination will find the same initials carved at the very center of the earth. I will be that audacious traveler. I too will carve my name on the same spot. But in justice to your devotion, to your courage, and to your being the first man to indicate this road, let this cape, seen first by you on the shores of the sea discovered by you, let this cape be known for all time as Cape Saknussemm.
I confess I was roused to a pitch of wild enthusiasm by my uncle's stirring words. What another man had done in ages past could, I felt, be done again, and I was determined to do it myself. Forward, forward, I cried, using the professor's watchword. And I started in the direction of the somber gallery, the road we had to take.
Stop, boy, stop. Let us not lose our heads in this wonderful moment. Before anything else, we should return to our good friend Hans, and then we can bring the raft round to this point.
Oh, very well, but don't let's waste time, Uncle. Come along. When you come to think of it, everything has worked out for the best, Uncle.
Not quite so fast, please. All for the best, Harry. So, you begin to realize that now.
Yes, Uncle. Even that fearful hurricane was our friend. It put us on the right road.
I agree. There is something providential in the way we were blown back here. and to make the great discovery of Cape Saknus. It's almost beyond belief. I beg you not to go quite so fast, Harry.
It's only that I'm anxious not to waste time, Uncle. I can see exactly how things are working out for us. We shall take a northern route. We shall pass under the northern regions of Europe, Sweden, Russia, Siberia, and who knows where, instead of burying ourselves under the burning plains and deserts of Africa. Let us go on as we're going, and heaven will be our guide.
Yes, Harry, yes. We shall leave the flat sea behind us, and we shall descend, forever descend. Do you know, my dear boy, that to reach the center of the earth, we have only another 5,000 miles to travel?
Oh, 5,000? It's scarcely worth talking about. The thing is to get going.
Yes, to get going. Forward to the center of the earth.
Thus, our wild speeches continued until we rejoined our patient and phlegmatic guide. All was ready for our departure. Every single package and parcel was stowed in its allotted place. We boarded the raft and hoisted the sail, and hence guided our frail craft towards the newly named Cape Saknussemm. About 6 o'clock in the evening, we sighted a suitable place to land. I was the first to leap ashore. My uncle and Hans followed more sedately. I was still terribly excited and anxious to make a start without any further delay. For once in a way, my uncle was more prudent.
My dear boy, I am as anxious as you are to make a start. But before we do anything else, let us survey the mysterious gallery which marks the beginning of our road. Then we can decide if we need to prepare and mend our ladders.
The professor set about testing our Ruhmkorff's coil, which would soon be needed to provide us with light in the galleries. While he was doing so, Hans hitched the raft to a projecting rock scarcely 20 paces distant from the gallery. At length my uncle declared that he was ready, and we advanced in single file, myself in the lead. The opening to the gallery was circular, about 5 feet in diameter. The floor was roughly at water level, and we were able to enter it without hindrance. As we went forward, I counted my steps into the tunnel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11...
Go on, Harry. What's stopping you?
I can't go on.
Why not? Why not?
The way is blocked. This confounded stone.
Huh? Solid granite. A block of solid granite. Is there no way around it?
None.
Or beneath?
No.
Or above?
No.
Is there no sign of another opening to right or left?
Nothing, Uncle. Nothing at all.
This is intolerable. Intolerable. Why? Why is the stone here? It has no business here. This is our proper road, I am convinced. No, I do not understand this.
What about Arne Saknussemm, Uncle?
Huh?
What about Arne Saknussemm? Do you imagine...
You're right, my boy. Saknussemm penetrated to the center of the earth. He can never have been checked by a block of stone.
Of course he wasn't. No. At one time, this passage was quite clear. You can tell that by the smoothness of the walls. But sometime or other, there's been an earthquake which brought down this solid granite wall. I'll wager it wasn't here when Saknussemm passed this way, and what I say is this. If we don't smash it down somehow or other, we're not worthy to follow Saknussemm. We don't even deserve to reach the center of the earth.
Bravo, Harry. Let us get to work with pickaxes and crowbars. Hans, the tools. Fetch the tools from the rock.
A moment. If we work 1,000 years, we shall never shift this rock with pickaxes.
What then? What then?
There is another way. We can blast the rock to smithereens.
Gunpowder. Yes. To work. To work.
That was the 7th installment of A Journey to the Center of the Earth, adapted by Howard Jones from the novel by Jules Verne. The cast was as follows. Harry Lawson was played by Bernard Horsfall and Professor von Hardwig by Geoffrey Banks. And it was produced in the north of England by Trevor Hill. We invite you to listen to the...
We present Bernard Horsfall as Harry Lawson and Geoffrey Banks as Professor von Hardwig in A Journey to the Center of the Earth, the novel by Jules Verne, adapted for radio in 8 parts by Howard Jones.
Part 8, The Journey is Ended.
And now I have reached the last chapter of our amazing and incredible adventure. Not that we realized it at the time, of course. There were, as my uncle said, some 5,000 miles between ourselves and the center of the Earth. But there, perhaps I should first remind you who I am. My name is Harry Lawson, and my uncle is none other than that brilliant scientist, Professor von Hartwig of Hamburg. You may recall that he determined we should follow in the footsteps of a certain Arne Saknussemm, a 16th century alchemist, who had made a lone journey to the center of the Earth. As you well know by now, my uncle is a man not to be denied. So off to Iceland we went, and accompanied by our faithful guide, Hans Bjelke, we descended the crater of the extinct volcano called Snæfell's. I have described at length the many perils we faced in those underground passages and caverns. Then how we sailed on the great central sea and were there overwhelmed by a hurricane which drove us back to our starting point. Yet that was our good fortune. For we found close at hand the road taken 300 years before by Arne Saknussemm, the road to the center of the Earth. To our dismay, the way ahead was blocked by a huge mass of granite. There was no way round it, or under it, or above it. Nor was there any hope of moving it with pickaxes. I said to the professor, "There is another way. We will blast the rock to smithereens."
Gunpowder. Yes. To work, Hans, to work.
I come, master. What is it you wish? I have a crowbar and pickaxe.
You are to make a cavity in the rock here, Hans. No, lower down, here.
Yeah.
A cavity big enough to hold 50 pounds of gun cotton. You understand?
Oh, yes, I understand. A big hole here. I will see to it.
Now, Harry, my boy, we must prepare a fuse of wick. Then we will wrap our explosive in a bag and pack it into the hole Hans is making.
I'll see to it, Uncle. We'll succeed. We're bound to succeed.
Of course we will succeed. When everything is in place, all we need is a spark. One tiny spark, and this wretched rock will be blown to atoms. Come, let us have everything ready. Then we may rest until tomorrow.
The morrow was the 27th of August. And even now, so long afterwards, my heart beats wildly at the memory of that fearful day. At 6 o'clock in the morning, we were up and ready. I begged that I should be allowed to ignite the explosive, and my uncle agreed. Our plan was simple. The professor and Hans would wait on the raft, and there I would join them as soon as I had fired the fuse. We calculated that the fuse would burn for at least 10 minutes before the explosion was touched off, and we should therefore have plenty of time to put out safely to sea. We made a good breakfast. Then the professor, who, like myself, was a little on edge, asked abruptly,
You are ready, Harry?
"Quite ready, Uncle."
The lamp. You have a lamp to light the fuse.
"I have it here."
Then be off, and heaven go with you. Be back as quickly as you can, my boy. I'm all impatient.
"Oh, don't worry, Uncle. I shan't dawdle. Give me a shout when you want me to fire the fuse."
Are you ready?
Yes!
Then fire away!
I could see my uncle watching me from the raft, chronometer in hand. I opened the lamp and ignited the fuse. It crackled and sparkled, hissed and spat like a serpent. I did not stay to watch it, but pelted for the shore.
Well done, my boy. Hans, cast off.
It is done, master. There is little wind. I must use the pole.
With his long pole, Hans sent us flying over the water. My uncle never raised his eyes from the chronometer. In a few seconds, we were fully 40 yards from the beach. Then, 5 minutes to go. 4 minutes. 3 minutes. 2 minutes. 1 minute. My uncle did not move. Half a minute to go. 20 seconds. 10. My uncle took up the count.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Now shattered pieces, you granite wall!
What happened then? Mercifully, my memory of those terrifying moments is dimmed. But it seemed to me that the rocks on the shore were torn aside like a curtain. The sea rose in a mountainous mass, the raft with it. We were thrown to the deck, and there was darkness all about us. The raft seemed to be hurtling down a gigantic well. I tried to speak, but could not. I could hear nothing but the roaring of the waters. Presently, my mind cleared a little. I began to understand what had happened. The explosion had created a sort of earthquake. Beyond the granite wall which we had shattered was an abyss. Doubtless the road once followed by Saknussemm. Into this we had been hurled, dragging, as it were, the central sea with us. Time passed. We sat close, elbow to elbow, knee to knee, grasping each other's hands. The raft spun, struck the wall, sped on and on, down and down at horrifying speed. In my heart was the certainty that we were doomed. Presently, Hans spoke.
Dark. I do not like this dark. The room cost coal, Hans. Will it give a light?
No. It's smashed in pieces.
We can't light a torch, that's certain.
My torch will not keep burning. There is too much rain. But there is the lantern.
Can you light it? Will it burn?
We will see. We will see. Ah, there. He burns. He flickers in the wind. But he is something. He is better than the dark.
Yes, Hans, yes. Better than the dark.
We seemed now to be in a wide cavern, hurtling along at a speed, I truly believe, of 100 miles an hour. My uncle and I stared wild-eyed at each other as we clung to the mast. Hours passed. I lost all count of time. Then it struck me that we should examine our cargo so that we had some idea of our resources. I spoke to Hans, and he answered.
Cargo? I do not know.
Well, let's see. Take the lamp, Hans. First, what are our scientific instruments?
Here's a chronometer. Here's a compass. Nothing else.
That's bad. What about ropes and tools?
One little piece of rope tied to our mast. No pickaxes. No crowbars. No hammer. Nothing else.
Food?
You ask for food?
Yes. How much food is left?
There is this little piece of dried meat. There are these biscuits.
What else?
Nothing.
There must be some more.
There is nothing. Nothing.
A piece of dried meat. A few wet and moldy biscuits. Terrified at the prospect of starvation, I searched the raft, examined the cracks, poked between the beams, looked into every hole and corner. The result was nothing. Now I was desperate and terribly afraid. I stretched myself on the raft and watched the lamplight as it became fainter and fainter and finally burnt out. Perhaps then I fainted. Perhaps I only slept. When I opened my eyes again, the darkness was complete. But something had happened whilst I slept. What was it? Silence. No roaring. No rushing waters. Then my uncle spoke.
Harry. Harry, my boy. Where are you?
Here, Uncle. Here is my hand.
You realize what has happened? We are going upward.
Upward? But that's impossible.
We are going upward, very fast. Hans, a torch. Can you light a torch?
Perhaps. There is now no wind to blow him out. I think he will burn in a moment. Ah, he is a good flame.
Bravo.
Look. We go up, up. In a well?
Yes, a well. A narrow vertical shaft. It is clear, Harry, that the waters of the Central Sea have flooded the bottom of the shaft and are now pushing us upward.
Yes, Uncle. But the question is, where does this shaft end?
As to that, I'm as ignorant as you. But I think we should be prepared for the worst.
If there is no opening to this shaft, then we shall either be crushed against the granite roof or suffocated. As it is, I don't seem to breathe very well.
It is a desperate situation, Harry. But I say, while there's life, there's but hope. Let us cheer ourselves. Let us eat.
Eat?
Eat, I say. Come, and serve us some food.
Oh, Master, it cannot be.
Come, we all need food. Or do you mean that our provisions are lost?
Is this handful of meat? There are these biscuits. All else is lost.
You are sure, Hans?
I am very sure, Master.
Well, what do you think of our chances now, Uncle?
I think, my boy, I think we must make up our minds to eat. It will do us no good to stare at these few scraps. Hans, pass me the meat and biscuits. If a man's heart beats, then I say he continues to hope. There. I have made 3 portions of the food. Your portion, Harry. Yours, Hans. What are you smiling at, Hans?
Master, I have something here.
Something to eat.
Something to drink. A bottle of Schiedam.
Schiedam, Holland gin. Splendid, splendid. Approach the bottle, my good Hans. Take a drink, then pass it round.
It is good. Very good.
Excellent. It will put strength into all of us, good Hans.
For a long time, I lay still and silent. When I looked again at the chronometer, it was 5 o'clock in the morning. It seemed to me that the temperature about us was rising, and the air, or lack of it, at times made breathing difficult. I said bitterly, well, if we're not drowned or flattened like pancakes or don't starve, we shall have the satisfaction of being burned alive.
What is that, my boy? Hans, give me the torch. I want to examine the walls of this shaft.
Here, my master.
Thank you. This is eruptive granite. And we are still going up. Who knows? Yes, who knows?
I wondered what my uncle meant. Could he somehow calculate the thickness of the crust over our heads? He put his hand on the rocky walls of the shaft and muttered again.
And this is silicous mineral. Good. Undoubtedly the transition period. What then? What then?
As we ascended further, the heat became well nigh unbearable. We removed our jackets and waistcoats. Presently, I touched a rock and found it so hot that I plunged my hand into the water to cool it. Involuntarily, I cried, "Take care! The water's scalding!"
What, Harry?
The water, it's scalding. Is there a furnace up above us?
Impossible. Quite impossible.
Then what does it mean? Where are we? Where are we going? Hans!
Here is the compass.
The thing's gone mad. First it points north, then south, now north again. That means the magnetism around us is in a state of flux. It means... That noise. You hear it?
What is frightening you, my boy?
Don't you hear? Don't you realize the water we're floating on is almost boiling and the compass has gone mad? It must be an earthquake.
I hope for something better than an earthquake.
What do you mean?
An eruption. I have every reason to think we are in the shaft of a crater, in full volcanic action and vigor. And I beg to tell you that it is the most fortunate thing that could happen to us.
Fortunate? You say we're about to be vomited from the earth with flames, rocks, cinders, and you call it fortunate?
Certainly. It is the only chance we have of escaping into the light of day.
I tried to calm myself, to think things out logically and sensibly. My uncle was right, absolutely right. We were being thrust up through the Earth's crust, not on this occasion in an extinct volcano like Snæfell's, but in a mountain of fire in full activity. From Cape Saknussemm, we had been swept northward many hundreds of leagues. Where then were we now? Under Iceland? Should we be belched up through Mount Hekla, or through one of the other 7 fire funnels of the island? But what did it matter? We were doomed anyway. Towards morning, our speed of ascent increased still more. The vertical gallery became wider and wider. To right and left, I could discern long, dark corridors emitting thick and suffocating vapors and flickering tongues of flame. This, I thought, this surely is the end. My uncle, however, was not in the least perturbed.
My dear boy, it is merely burning sulfur. That is the common feeling with a volcanic eruption.
But if the flames engulf us,
They will not engulf us.
well, I suppose it's all the same, whether we choke to death, burn to death, or drown in scalding water.
There is no water. We are rising on a bed of lava. What is the time, good Hans?
8 o'clock, Master. 8 o'clock of the morning.
Strange. It's gone very quiet. What's happened?
We do not go up anymore. That is what happens.
The eruption has stopped. We are not moving.
Do not be alarmed. Before we are many minutes older, we shall continue our journey to the mouth of the crater. We are concerned with a volcano. The eruption is intermittent. It is compelled to breathe, just as we do. Here we go again. Hang on tight, my friends. Hang on tight.
We ascended and stopped. Ascended and stopped again. I cannot say how many times the process was repeated. The heat became intense. I sweated from every pore. I must have become lightheaded, for I remember dimly how the powerful arms of Hans suddenly closed me.
Be still, Master. Hurry, be still. For the rest will take your head on the roof of the shaft. Everything is all right. It is all right.
I have only a confused recollection of continual detonations, of the shaking of the granite walls, of the raft whirling like a spinning top as it floated on the stream of hot lava. Huge flames roaring all about us. A hot, searing wind blowing from the secret furnaces of the earth. My heart throbbing with terror. This is all I remember. When I opened my eyes, I felt Hans clutching me by the belt. With the other hand, he supported my uncle. I realized presently that I was lying on a mountain slope, scarcely 2 paces from a gully into which I would surely have slipped at the first false step. I was not hurt, but stiff, bruised all over. Like a man rousing from a dream, my uncle asked,
Where are we?
Who can tell, Master?
In Iceland?
No, not Iceland.
How do you know?
Look about you, Master.
we should be at Spitsbergen, I thought. I expected to see a snow-covered cone and widespread glaciers. But no. Here was sunlight. Intense, warming, piercing sunlight. We had been cast from the crater half naked, and I could feel the warmth of the sun soaking through and through my body. After some delay, the professor spoke.
No, it really does not look like Iceland.
Perhaps it's the island of Jan Mayen.
Out of the question, my boy. This is not a northern volcano.
Oh, it's easy to say that, Uncle, but you can't be sure.
Look, my boy, down to the base of the mountain. Now, what do you see?
Trees.
What trees? You recognize them?
Could be olives. Figs.
Exactly. And yonder there are vines loaded with grapes.
And now, as my eyes became accustomed to the brilliant light, I saw beneath me the waters of a sea or lake, which made an island of this enchanted land. Over towards the rising sun was a small port, clustered with houses. strange-looking boats were anchored in the harbor. Far beyond, numerous small islands could be seen, so many that I was reminded of bees about a beehive. To the west lay a distant mountainous coastline, with one prodigiously lofty cone surmounted by heavy clouds. To the north, there was nothing but water, sparkling in the sun. I asked, "Where can we be?"
Now, wherever we are, it is rather warm. And what is more, the volcano is erupting. And I see no sense in staying here to receive a piece of rock upon my head. Let us descend and find somebody who will tell us where we are. To tell the truth, I feel I'm dying of thirst and hunger. Forward, Hans, forward.
We slithered over piles of ashes, avoiding the streams of hot lava which glided horribly beside us like serpents. As we slipped and scrambled, I said, "We must be somewhere in Asia. On the coast of India, perhaps, or Malaya. We've crossed through the globe and come out at the Antipodes."
But the compass, my boy. Explain the compass. It always pointed northward.
I can't explain it. It's a mystery.
No mystery at all. The compass lied.
The compass lied? How do you know?
Because if it didn't lie, we are now at the North Pole. Does that strike you as reasonable?
I did not know what to think, nor did I much care, for I, too, was tormented with thirst and hunger. After a 2 hours' march, we reached a beautiful spread of country where olives, pomegranates, and vines abounded. What a delight it was to press these fruits to our lips. Not far off, near some fresh and mossy grass, I found a spring of fresh water. And here we paused to wash our hands, feet, and faces. While we were doing this, a small boy appeared between two tufted olive trees. I cried, "Ah, here's a small inhabitant of this happy land. Boy! Boy!"
He runs away. Catch him, Hans. Catch him.
I will. Boy, come here. Come here.
The boy was poorly dressed and terribly scared at our appearance. And who would blame him? Half naked with tangled hair and ragged beards, we must have looked very ill-favored in his young eyes. Hans caught up with him and dragged him back.
Here he is. But he will not speak. Nothing will he say.
Let me try, Hans.
Wie heißt dieser Berg?
He does not speak, so we are not in Germany. Boy, what is the name of this mountain? Is he dumb, I wonder? Let us try a little Italian on him. Dove noi siamo? Boy, must I give you a good shaking to loosen your tongue? Come si noma questa isola?
Stromboli! Stromboli!
Stromboli. So we were in the central Mediterranean, amidst the eastern archipelago of mythological memory, in the ancient Strongylos, where Aeolus chained up the wind and the tempest, and those blue mountains which rose towards the rising sun were the mountains of Calabria, and that mighty volcano which rose on the southern horizon was the fierce and celebrated Etna. Oh, what a journey. What a marvelous and extraordinary journey we had made. For we had entered the earth by one volcano and had come out by another, more than 1,200 leagues from Snæfell's. So was our great adventure ended. There is little more for me to add. We were kindly received by the fishermen of Stromboli, and after a rest of 48 hours, we started our homeward journey. On the 9th of October, we arrived in Hamburg, and here our faithful Hans bade us farewell and departed for his native Iceland. Shortly, too, I married my uncle's goddaughter, my dearest, my ever-beloved Gretchen, though that, as they say, is another story. My uncle's greatness as both a scientist and an explorer was speedily recognized. Hamburg gave a festival in our honor. A public meeting of the Johanneum Institute was held at which the professor related the full story of our adventures, omitting only the mystery in connection with our lying compass.
Ah, that compass. Why did it point to the south instead of to the north? It baffles me, Harry. It baffles me.
I think I can explain it now, Uncle.
You can?
Yes. For 6 months now, it has lain untouched and unnoticed here in your study. As you see, the needle still points to the south.
Well, bless me, so it does. But why, my boy? Why?
Because during that hurricane on the Central Sea, we encountered a ball of fire. Remember?
Of course I remember. But what has that to do with it?
The ball of fire turned our raft into a magnet, didn't it? And likewise, Uncle, it turned the compass topsy-turvy.
So it was a trick of the electricity. Brilliant, Harry, brilliant. Ha! Now I am happy. You have cleared up for me the one great mystery of our journey. Our unforgettable journey to the center of the earth.
That was the 8th and last installment of A Journey to the Center of the Earth, adapted by Howard Jones from the novel by Jules Verne. The cast was as follows. Harry Lawson was played by Bernard Horsfall, Professor von Hartwig by Geoffrey Banks, and Hans Bjolke by John Daglish. It was produced in the north of England by Trevor Hill. Tomorrow in Storytime on Radio 4 at 5:25, you'll be able to hear the 3rd installment of The Flight of the Heron by D.K. Broster, which has been abridged for reading on radio in 8 parts